Ooh.
No.
Ooh.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
Ooh.
Don't do it.
Oh, no. That didn't even work. Didn't work. Didn't need to.
Didn't? No.
Didn't need to. Brand recognition is all we need.
Yes.
How cynical we were.
How jaded.
We were.
Like Aerosmith in the 1990s. That was a single.
Or like a dragon.
Got a lot of radio
A
play.
jade dragon.
The Jade Dragon.
Dong. That was a temptable.
Pete's Dragon.
Attempted a dong. A
Pete,
dong?
Pete,
A
Pete
dong.
has a dragon.
I hit the gong with my dong.
Oh, God.
And Pete's dragon went, ooh. What's he
Ugh.
called again? Elliot? Something like that, isn't he? The dragon.
Oh, he's just called Pete's Dragon. That's his name.
That's the name of the film. The dragon.
His
Dragon's
name
got a name.
is Pete.
You know the dragon. He walks around going,
No.
dong, dong.
If you look at his on his birth certificate, his name is Pete's Dragon.
Pete S. Dragon.
No,
Pete S. Dragon, but there was a printing error.
No,
and the full stop accidentally went above the S and to the left, and it looks like an apostrophe.
it's like a European name. It's Pete's Dragon.
So he's not a dragon made of peat.
No, not like Pete as in Boggy Pete. Like Pete as
Or feces, for
Pete,
example.
like, I don't know,
Manure.
Pete Sampras. Pete Sampras.
So he's made of various Petes.
Pete's Dragon.
There are small individual human beings, probably children, called Pete, who are glued together to create this dragon.
No! What is the obsession with multiple Petes? There's one Pete. There's one dragon. It's Pete's Dragon. It's not a dragon of Pete's.
That's our show this week, everybody. Good night. Welcome. Welcome.
How the hell did we...
To an awfully confused Big Damn Cast. It's our Ghostbusters special, so naturally, Pete's Dragon is the topic of the day. Yeah, we're going to talk about Ghostbusters because, in case you keep an eye on our social media and on YouTube
In case you
and stuff,
haven't noticed,
Ghostbusters is out.
yeah.
What?
Just
Is
in
this
case.
1984? Was Temple of Doom and Gremlins also have this weekend?
Oh, I wish.
That was a great year for cinema.
Yeah.
No, the new 2016 Ghostbusters movie came out. We went to see it day before recording this.
Yep.
We reviewed it. You can
Yep.
look it up on YouTube. But we are pleasantly surprised and happy to announce that the finished thing ain't that bad at all.
No, I'd go so far as to say it was pretty good.
It's an entertaining film.
Yeah.
Really funny. Great cast. Very largely misrepresented in the marketing.
Got some problems. It's a little,
Yeah,
there's a little saggy here and there. Some of the jokes don't quite work.
But it's nowhere near as big a cataclysmic event that we predicted based on all the stuff knowing going in. I mean, if the behind the scenes stories, which we'll go into actually later on, but if the behind the scenes stories of the troubled production are true, that's a shame. But it hasn't affected the final product none, so fair dues.
Yep.
But more on that film later. If you want our non-spoilery thoughts on it, go to YouTube. The link will be in the description of this episode as well, to watch our non-spoiler review. And later, at the end of this episode, we're going to go into full spoiler talk about the new movie.
We're going to dissect it like a roast chicken. Gonna get all the meat off them bones.
We're going to perform experiments on it, like you read about in People Performing Experiments on Things magazine.
We're going to perform the Bechdel. Can you imagine if that movie didn't pass the Bechdel test? Can you imagine if it didn't?
You know, does it?
Oh, yeah.
Because there's the thread of
absolutely.
Kristen Wiig wanting to spank Thor.
Yeah, well,
then again, no one has a conversation about the fact that she's useless because she can't get a man or anything like that. It's more.
Well, that's not what the Bechdel test is simpler.
They can't have a conversation about relationships or something.
No.
Explain it to me. I don't know. I don't know entirely.
At one point in the movie, two women, both named, must have a conversation which is not about a man.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah. Oh, yes. Because any scenes where she's being a little bit lusty, she's with everyone else.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter if they're included in it, though.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if it has scenes where that doesn't happen. That just has to happen once in the
Gotcha,
movie.
I didn't realise that.
No, it just has to happen once in the movie. Which is why it's a really flawed indicator of whether a movie's feminist or not. But it's not meant to be. It comes from an old.
It's more a guide for script writers to just have a think about while they're creating stories, so they don't.
It's not even that. It's a gag that came from a satirical French comic years ago that people take way too seriously.
Oh,
it's not a screenwriting rule or anything like that. It's literally a gag from a comic, an old satirical comic.
Right. I thought people used it as a frame of reference just to sort of avoid doing stereotypical conversations.
People use it as a thought experiment.
Okay.
To examine fiction, but it's not like a rule people use, or even one that necessarily means a film lacks any strong female characters or has strong female characters. Plenty of movies that do pass the Bechdel test are ridiculously sexist and vice versa. So, it's just it's a gag.
I learned something here today.
You did learn something here today.
The more you know.
And so did you. I bet you didn't know that, did you? Yeah, you. I'm talking to you.
He even pointed at you.
I know.
You can't see him, but he can see you.
I know what happened. And I know. Stop thinking it.
So we thought we'd go through the history of Ghostbusters as a whole, because we're not like, we don't have the suits, we don't have proton packs.
I wouldn't say I'm that into anything because I don't have any money.
Iron Maiden.
But
Iron Maiden.
No, because I don't have enough money.
Fair enough.
But
I mean, you do have the individual members' pinky digits. The original digits, so the ones they have now, of course, are replicas.
Yeah.
You have their original digits in a cigar case that you keep on you at all times.
Yeah, cryogenically frozen in my left buttock. I have a compartment.
When I said you keep it on you at all times, I was of course referring to the pocket of flesh that you've formed in your buttock.
It's like RoboCop's gun holster, but made of flesh.
When you get them out, do you twizzle each of them round your own fingers?
Yeah.
To impress your son.
They're
there we go, and I put them back in.
They're all loaded into the magazine of an Auto 9, and I just fire them out, and then I have to reload the magazine. It gets real messy.
Oh.
You've got to be quick, or else they'd start to thaw out.
I bet they don't have the original fingernails. So we are so off topic. But,
what are we even talking about? This is why we usually record earlier in the day.
We're recording this quite late at night. We're recording this at 6 a.m. We really like Ghostbusters. We both. I mean, would you say it's one of the movies that let's not simplify things as much as saying people have top 10s, but would you say that it would qualify or seriously qualify if you sat down and had to pick your top 10 films? Would Ghostbusters make it? Would it be close?
Oh God, it'd be on there. Yeah,
I definitely think that first
be on there, but it'd be on there.
I definitely think that first movie would be in my top 10.
Oh yeah, hands down.
We also don't dislike the second movie, which on the internet seems to be a weird thing now.
A lot of people really don't like Ghostbusters 2, but I really like Ghostbusters 2.
Maybe we had to be of adult age or like late teens at the time of its release to be cynical, because I can't think of anyone sort of around our age who detests the second one. 91, I think? 89.
It's set in 89. Did it come out in 89?
I think it came out in 89.
It came out in 89?
Yeah, because it was 5 years later.
So it came out the year after I was born, so it was on TV quite a lot when I was little.
Yeah, because the Real Ghostbusters, the cartoon, went on until 92, didn't it? Yeah. It survived a couple more years after the film.
The cartoon and Ghostbusters 2 on TV, or on VHS taped off TV, was my first exposure to Ghostbusters. So. Really? Your first exposure was the... I definitely saw 2... At least I can remember, I definitely saw 2 first.
Well, let's go chronological, bitch.
Yeah.
That was mean. Sorry.
In release order.
Let's go in release order, bitch.
Yeah.
Ghostbusters.
They're here to save the world.
They are here to save the world. Who are you going to call? Was not catchy, so who are you going to call?
Who are you going to call?
Who are you going to call?
Who are you going to ring?
Some blokes.
A bunch of blokes. So, 3 disgraced scientists and a dude who will believe anything you want if there's a steady paycheck in it.
Yeah.
And the world's nastiest receptionist.
So the first movie is a thing.
It's a thing.
Basically birthed from, as far as I can tell, out of the movie vagina. No, it was birthed. It was an idea of Aykroyd's for him and John Belushi, and the first draft was written in 1980.
Yeah.
John Belushi, in the words of Aaron Reitman in one of the documentaries on the Blu-ray release, then left this universe, and Dan kind of just put the idea to bed. But then sometime in 83, he talked about it to Ivan Reitman, about potentially directing such a project. And Ivan Reitman said, "Oh, this is great. I like the idea, but I think you just need to sort of focus on the comedy, or at least sort of the character interaction a little more, because Dan Aykroyd was very heavy into the science aspect of it all."
The parascience aspect of it is...
Parapsychology, paranormal study, and metaphysics.
This will come up, but Dan Aykroyd is a crazy person.
Dan Aykroyd is insane.
He's a crazy man.
But he said, like, look, have my friend Harold Ramis look over it. And I think Ivan Reitman and Harold Ramis worked together. Is it Stripes? Is the one that Reitman directed? Which has Harold Ramis and Bill Murray in it. John Candy, I think, is in that one as well.
I'm not sure if he's in Stripes.
I might be drunk. But quite possibly. It is 6 a.m. It's 5 p.m. somewhere. So, yes. And Harold Ramis, turns out, got some of the references Aykroyd had made to the the more supernatural elements in the script. He was like, oh yeah, no, I like that stuff too. Like I've read into that. And obviously not to the extent of Aykroyd, but like he got some of the stuff, which impressed Aykroyd so much. That he was like, yes, please work with me on this new draft of the script. Like we are going to get on like a house on fire, and they really bloody did, because the draft they turned out is pretty much the one they ended up making. A lot had to get toned down from the previous draft. There was stuff like, I think there was like a trip to hell, which is something they wanted to do later.
They have helmets in the original storyboard. It looks really weird. There
were really nice drapes in some of the locations, and they took them down because they didn't want to wreck them. But yeah, so like Bill Murray was cast, presumably because of his work with Harold Ramis and Ivan Reitman on Stripes. They were like, it'd be great for it. So you've got 3 SNL alumni working together. Did Ramis star in SNL, or did he write SNL?
I think he may have written. Definitely done comedy stuff with Bill Murray and Dan Aykroyd before.
Yeah.
Second City. He'd done Second City.
Oh, of course, Second City.
So yeah, they definitely knew each other from earlier stuff. So
it's called Ghost Smashers as well.
Well,
wasn't it?
That was because of the whole Filmation Ghostbusters debacle.
Yeah, do you know what? Let's very briefly go further. Let's go further back than the original
because
movie.
This will come up again.
Yes. In some really weird ways.
So Filmation, years before, I think in the mid 70s, I think it was.
Filmation's heyday was like 60s, 70s.
Oh, it might have been earlier than that then. So they made a live action show called The Ghostbusters. 2 words, Ghostbusters, not 1 word like it is in the film.
Oh no, I believe it was 1 word at first.
It was The Ghostbusters.
Oh right, gotcha. Also, Ghostbusters was 1 word, but
The Ghost.
Got you.
Busters.
Got you.
3 words altogether. Ghostbusters was 2 words.
Gotcha. I knew there was a discrepancy involving a space.
Ghost Busters. There we go. Once again, the space Ghost space Busters. Not
copyright symbol.
They're not
space.
spacing. There's no space in the word space. It's not sci-fi. It's not. Well, it is a sci-fi show, but it's not. Never mind. It's the Ghostbusters.
Filmation's the Ghostbusters.
Yeah, and there was an ape in it. There was a talking ape, and there was a drag car and 2 weird guys. And I've never watched an episode of the Ghostbusters because it looked terrible.
I'm assuming it's about a team that deal with science and try to get rid of ghosts.
No, I didn't even. I don't know what it was about. It was called the Ghostbusters, and there was a talking ape on the team in a top hat. I mean, what else do you need? No, not like a bowler hat, but what else do you need to know?
Oh, of course, that's one distinction. If he was in a top hat, then we'd probably pay the show more.
It wasn't an English gent. It was in a bowler hat. So it was more likely, I don't know, like a banker. I don't know. I don't know about the Ghostbusters.
Are you saying bankers can't be gents?
Look, the only thing I know about the Ghostbusters is that it existed. All right, that's all I know. It existed and it predates Ghostbusters. So there was a copyright situation with Filmation, and at one point it was going to be called Ghost Smashers. Even into the filming, they weren't sure which title they were going to have to go with, so they were filming some stuff as Ghost Smashers, some stuff as Ghostbusters. And like Ivan Reitman was like, we need to sort this out. Let's work out a deal with Filmation. They worked out a deal with Filmation, being that Ghostbusters was theirs for the film, but the name Ghostbusters could still be used by Filmation for TV projects.
So essentially, these are words that exist. We can't own words, but we can own combinations of words and how they're represented.
Absolutely can own words, because people do.
Yes. But I mean, like they were. So we both have access to the same words. However, yours stay on the big screen, ours stay on the small screen. Good day, sirs. I said good day, sirs.
Good day, sirs.
As they throw their bowler hat to the ground in anger.
Why don't you have a talking ape in your Ghostbusters film? Because it's not that kind of film.
No, we've got a green onion with arms instead.
But that's what we've got.
So Ghostbusters
times have changed.
Goes into production, and it does face a lot of hiccups. Some to do with budget during the making, because I believe that when asked like how much money would you need by the studio, Ivan Reitman sort of went like, I just pulled it out of his arse and went sort of 3 times what you gave us for Stripes. Stripes was like $10 million, relatively low budget. So the studio were like, okay, $30 million, there you go. He was like, oh, okay. Which, again, in the 80s, $30 million is like the equivalent of, say, $80 million. There's room for inflation, this, that, and the other, and you can get more done. But it was still not enough to make the movie that Dan Aykroyd envisioned. Luckily, the last draft was a lot easier to, a lot more accessible in terms of the effects available and set pieces.
A lot easier to digest.
Yeah.
Had more fibre.
Yeah. And then it was crapped out beautifully.
Went straight through the system. Because they turned it around relatively quickly, It was out in 84. And yeah, Ghostbusters. What a movie!
What a damn good movie.
I don't think we need to tell anyone anything about the plot of Ghostbusters. It's Ghostbusters.
Yes.
You don't need us to... You know what Ghostbusters is. It's one of those cultural touchstones, at least of... our generation, probably the nerdier set, because I was just old enough to catch the end of the cartoon show, and like the TV syndication of the second movie. But certainly the generation before mine, who are now in their late 30s, that was absolutely the touchstone of their childhoods.
Which is weird, because it isn't a family movie.
But it's not.
It's sort of...
I mean, it's rated PG.
It's like a very adult story in terms of some of the stuff that's dealt with. Like the characters' approach and their attitude isn't a family-friendly attitude.
It's not written for children. No, absolutely not.
But the fantastical elements captured people's imagination.
Absolutely.
And that's where the sort of the franchisee kind of potential that they focus on later, sort of was birthed. Because this film initially, it's like films like Return to Oz, things like that, where really this is a little frightening compared to what you would sit down to watch with your children.
I think it's slightly different to Return to Oz.
Kids can handle it.
Return to Oz was written as a children's film.
Was it? I mean, I don't know if you've watched that lately.
Oh, yeah,
I think that was written to torture people.
I've seen Return to Oz, but it was written as it wasn't written as a...
Tell us where you're hiding the weapons you've stolen. You can go to hell! Right, sit him down. Play him Return to Oz. As soon as it gets to the scene with all those heads, he's going to shit himself.
Hey. Return to Oz is a creepy movie.
It's creepy as
But film. It wasn't written as a...
Show me a wheeler and tell me not to piss my pants.
Hey, it's creepy. I'll concede that point.
But so is Ghostbusters.
But that's not the point I'm making. Yeah. The point I'm making is that Ghostbusters was not written as a children's movie, but attracted children enough to the point where they had a children's cartoon. Although the 80s was a weird time when they were making children's cartoons out of all sorts of weird properties.
Making toys out of other properties.
There was a Toxic Avenger cartoon, for crying out loud.
There's RoboCop and Aliens figures.
That was the early 90s, but yeah, it was kind of holdover from that.
It's that weird thing of, we'll make toys out of this, even though the product itself is not intended for the people making the toys for.
The Terminator 2 toy line, and Terminator 2 was made into a PG-13 movie as opposed to being a sequel to an 18. Seems an R-rated 18 movie, because they get that audience. But Ghostbusters wasn't trying to be
a kids film,
but it was just because it wasn't there wasn't any like explicit sex in it. There wasn't really any explicit language in it. It was creepy. I wouldn't go so far as to say it was kind of scary, but not like overtly scary.
No, a lot of the unease and eerie elements come from the score. I find actually watching it again last night, the score is what makes it sort of really. It adds to the freakier moments.
The stuff in the stacks in the library.
The score in the library is tremendous.
Stuff, it's all. Yeah. That's really good.
Like, oh god! And the really bombastic, like when you first see the statue of Zool crack open.
Yeah, and the stuff
you get the dun dun dun,
big horns and the stuff with the dogs, the Zool dogs.
Oh, yeah, the terry dog. Zool and Vince Clortho. I've never got over that. It's like, this one is Zool. Zool, the gatekeeper. And who's this? This is the keymaster. What's their name? Vince? Vince Clortho?
It's not Vince, it's Vins.
Vince Clortho.
Vins with a Z.
Hi, I'm Vince.
Vince Clortho.
I'm Vince Clortho. I see. He went from like accountant to like pretentious douchey kid.
I'm Vince.
I'm Vince Clortho.
Oh, I'm Vince. I'm from New Jersey.
Hey, the name's Vince over here.
Accent is.
American Italian.
I'm cousin Vinny.
Cousin Vinzy.
Where we come from, we got a word for people like you.
Ghosts. Oh, right, okay.
Ghosts.
It's ghosts.
Spectres, ghouls, goblins.
Oh, boom with the ectoplasm over there.
Oh, I'm walking here.
Forget about it.
God, well, it is set in New York, so I guess that works.
It is very much a New York movie.
It's such a New York movie.
Good lord, it embodies a lot of New York. In fact, the second film, which we'll go more into later, the whole reason for the evil slime thing there was because at that point in America,
New York was
like politically and everything, the country was in a foul mood. It was in a bad place, and New York was sort of a hub for this.
Yeah, I think it was just before Rudy Giuliani started cleaning stuff up, wasn't it?
Yeah. Oh god. But that's the first film. Sort of serves as a love letter. It's one of the quintessential New York films.
Yeah.
Like, there are some films you associate with cities. Like, London, you think of Mary Poppins. Well, not so much Mary Poppins. More like Peter Pan. Disney's Peter Pan's a very London film because that opening sequence shows these glorious painted like backdrops of the Thames and
Big Ben
and everything. and it makes a point of doing that. And 28 Days Later comes to mind when I think of films that sort of embody London, for example.
Yeah.
28 Days Later always comes to mind, walking around the deserted city and things like that. It
doesn't really hit the landmarks.
No,
but in the same way that a lot of those movies do, but it...
But if someone says to you, oh, name a film with London in it, I immediately think 28 Days Later. I'm like, oh yeah, watch the opening 10 minutes. You get to see Cillian Murphy's penis and Big Ben, which ironically is also Cillian Murphy's penis's nickname. So,
obvious joke's obvious, but I'll go with it.
Big Bell.
Yeah.
So there's that. But like New York, I think later years, especially people like of our age and younger, might even think the Raimi Spider-Man movies, like they make a big sort of thing of glorifying New York and showing off New York. Well, number one, you want to get to him,
you gotta go through us.
Yeah, which is a sequel to the "You mess with one of us, you mess with all of us." Number two.
But there's a lot to be said about those movies being very much about the spirit of New York post 9/11 and recovering from that.
Whereas Ghostbusters is the spirit of New York in the sense that it's
everyone hates it.
It's kind of a shithole, but it's also glorious.
It's ours.
We've got hot dog stands that look kind of gross, even without the big green things sliming out of them. But we've got these wonderful libraries. We've got great museums. We've got art galleries that look beautiful. Statue of Liberty walks around. The whole place is amazing. It's a great love letter to the city because it showcases it in a really cool way. And has given people excuses to just go for wanders throughout New York, looking for the locations from Ghostbusters.
Which you can find.
Yeah, you can, yeah. The hotel front that doubles as Dana's apartment building in real life. Opposite there is still that restaurant there that Lewis runs into, like Lewis Tully when he's banging on the window, like that's still there, and
the door is locked weirdly. I don't know any restaurants that lock you in, but so that's strange.
There's a sort of reference to that in the new movie.
So she tries to get slide it. At
the time I was like, oh, that's kind of a weird little moment, and I'm like, oh my god, it's a reference to Lewis Tully.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
I noticed that on the rewatch as well. But, we'll come to that when we get into the new movie.
I love the first one so much. Just the way it builds. The fact that the beginning is really small scale. It's just these dudes checking out the library. One of them's reluctant. Like, Egon and Ray are the only ones who are really kind of excited about this. Peter's just sort of like, okay, I guess I better come along. Because it's almost like he knows, and I get this sense in both films, but it's like he knows that if he's not there to sort of keep the scientific babble to a minimum, they're going to get probably arrested or thrown out of places.
But it's also
even though they know what they're doing, they're not very good at getting it across to people.
He's just got this sort of reluctance about the whole thing as well. He just doesn't really care. He doesn't really want to be there. He just wants to slack off, pick up women, just be a bit of a creep. But
Venkman is a creepy character.
He's a creepy dude.
He is a sexually creepy character.
Like, at the start of the movie, he's hitting on a student. And he's like...
Indiana Jones is doing it, but when he's doing
Indiana Jones isn't hitting on a student. He's having students hit on him. But then when you do the maths and work out how old...
Dr. Jones is in comparison to his students.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I don't know how old he is in comparison to... what do we call it? Marion Ravenwood.
Oh, yeah.
And like how old they must have been when they had their relationship the first time around before they broke up. Then I was like, oh yeah, that's a bit.
I think in the 80s people just didn't care. I think big hair must have been some kind of like, oh, they got big hair. Oh, forget about
big hair. And then he's really
they're attractive and have big hair. It's fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
Like Venkman at the start, like doing the experiments on the sort of telepathic powers and everything with the two.
You volunteered. We're paying you, aren't we?
Keep your $5. $5 to get electrocuted 700 times.
You know, the humour's like, it's a funny movie, but it's not wacky. Like, it's full of jokes, but they're not so much jokes as they are just funny stuff that happens between characters and lines, but none of the lines feel like gags, they just feel like actual dialogue.
Yeah, there are a couple of structured lines in the movie. Yeah, but even then, like in terms of the funnies, but even then, they're played so naturally. I mean, the one that comes to mind for me is the whole till the containment unit was shut off by Dickelson.
Oh, it's so good.
Is this true? Yes, Your Honour, it's true. This man has no dick. But
it's all in delivery. It's all
like Murray's delivery is so like you can tell that it just feels like Venkman's just gone. I'm gonna say this because it'll piss him off.
And that's the kind of guy Venkman is as well. Like he does the whole movie. He's just snarking off everyone. He does apologise for it at one point. He snarks off to Janine and apologises for it immediately.
Oh, he says you got the bug eye thing.
Which is then
Janine, sorry about the bug eye thing.
Which is then immediately followed by another moment in the film which always makes me piss when Egon comes out from under the desk. I don't know why it makes me laugh so much, but it's just the fact that he's been there the whole time.
Because 10 seconds later you get... he's not... I'm saying it now. He's not been up to anything naughty, Dan.
No, he's been repairing something. But
you get the sense 10 seconds later from how Janine talks to him that the only reason she's probably asked him to look at this thing is so that he's under the desk near her legs. Because she's getting a thrill out of this. Because Janine, let's face it, Janine is the voice of... And I find this actually, the more people I talked about this movie, like, the more people I talked about this movie, the more I find out a lot of people find Egon really sexy. Especially in this first film. I think it's the quiet genius.
It's always
kind of
the
thing.
quiet ones, man. It's always the quiet ones.
We'll get into the toaster later. But do you know what I mean? Like, it's just something. Is this the birth of the nerds of sexy?
Egon was always my favourite character.
It's because he's so socially awkward. He's quite possibly got like a behavioural,
as like a socially awkward
condition
nerd
everything.
growing up. Like he's definitely has that identification factor, and also like the fact there's that feeling when you're growing up as a kid and you're quite smart. I mean, I'm no genius, but I'm smarter than the average bear.
You just don't say it in the voice.
Smarter than the average bear.
Yeah, smarter than the average bear. Boom boom.
So there is that. I did have that feeling growing up that everyone around me was kind of dumber than I am, and that probably also means I've got some kind of personality disorder. But you know,
no, it's just because hanging out with me sort of makes you realise that maybe you were right.
Oh, wait, I'm definitely smarter than you are. But
that's
there is
it.
But
that's very true.
So I was kind of Egon was one of my kind of spirit animals.
Yeah, no, that is a perfect
Growing
description. That is a perfect description.
But obviously, I'm not quite as clever as Egon is, and I also did try to drill a hole in my own head. And I don't collect spores, molten fungus.
It's a shame because you had a lot of fun with that.
But even in the cartoon, Egon was my favourite character because of his just obliviousness to social cues. But everyone liked him, so
he's a lot more mentory, I think, in the cartoons as
Yeah,
well. Like most literally in the second cartoon, but in Real Ghostbusters, for example, he's the one who sort of they will turn to if they need the solution, if they need the plan.
Yeah.
Which, to be fair, in the first movie, there's a lot of that. It just seems that under pressure, he can crack. Like his
I'm sorry, but I'm terrified beyond the capacity for rational thought, which is one of the best lines in the whole movie.
Okay, Egon's gone bye-bye.
Oh, it's so
But
good.
at the same time, he never panics. The character never visibly panics.
He's such a mask.
Realises they've not really tested the proton packs. They could all die. Still says it with a relatively sort of low-pitched, dry delivery.
But then tries to back away from Ray in the lift.
Oh, that moment. That moment. Just...
Or signalling.
Egon just backs away and Peter doesn't look at Egon, but obviously feeling him on his shoulder, he's like, oh. And he just shifts just enough to give them a bit more room. And just, oh my god. And Ray stood there oblivious. Ray's more nervous about the fact they're going to see a ghost, because he's probably thinking, oh, this is exciting, I'm going to see another one. Like, I hope we get to get a good look at it. Oh, this is all a little worrying. And they're just like, we might blow up in this lift right now. They're wearing unlicensed nuclear accelerators on their backs.
There's the whole Twinkie speech, that's Egon.
Oh, it's beautiful. Beautiful.
But it's just, yeah, the characters are all great. And Ray's this sort of ball of enthusiasm.
As a kid, he was my favourite, and I think that's why. I think that's why, because he was just like, Ray's loving every minute of it.
He's so excited for everything. Everything that happens. And he also really fancies ghosts, apparently, because he has that weird dream sequence.
Is it a dream sequence?
I think yeah, because they're asleep in the bunkhouse, and then it sort of does the dream dissolve, and then he's like dressed as Napoleon.
I've got a feeling.
In the bed.
I've got a feeling that he must have been transported or something. It would be so weird if midway through this montage of them doing cases and meeting ghosts, he suddenly just part of the montage. Do you know what this montage needs? What's that, Dan? This montage needs a scene of me getting blown by a ghost.
It needs a sexy dream sequence. But I just don't... It must be a dream, because they have that dissolve.
Yeah, maybe he's having a vision. Maybe he's being given a vision.
Maybe it's a flashback. Maybe it's a flashback sexy dream. A sexy flashback dream.
A sexy dream.
A sexy dream. I'm going to have a sexy ghost dream.
Race dance, sexy dream, baby. But Ray's enthusiasm is amazing,
stance.
And his innocence as well. His innocence,
which makes that dream sequence all the more weird.
Yeah, well, so the quiet ones again.
Ray's not quiet.
But my good point. Oh god, but just the whole. I mean, Stay Puft is all him. That's down to him, and in real life, it's down to the fact that Dan Aykroyd just liked the idea of something really sweet being turned into the destroyer of worlds.
Choose the form of the destructor. I love it so much.
So if we think of J. Edgar Hoover,
if we think of J. Edgar Hoover, J. Edgar Hoover's going to appear and kill us.
Just clear your minds. Oh
good.
god!
Also, the most quotable movie ever made.
Yeah, well, we were talking about that before, weren't we? It quite possibly is.
It is. It definitively is. And I don't care what you say about Batman '89.
Hey, no, I
Ghostbusters
agree.
is eminently more quotable.
Ghostbusters is more quotable than Batman '89. I still think the Joker, Jack Nicholson's Joker, is the most quotable movie character of all time. But
any of the four Ghostbusters.
Well,
any of the four Ghostbusters.
Let's move on to one of the other four. Do you know what? Because here's the thing. You should always save your best for last. So I'm going to talk about my favourite first.
Yeah.
Because my favourite is not the one that everyone loves the most. But my favourite's Winston. I love Winston Zedmore.
I like them all, but yeah, Winston's great.
Because when Winston arrives, you could start the film at that part. That could be the beginning of the movie. Winston's suddenly a window into the film, into this world, even though we've already been with the other guys from the start. And it's strange because when he joins them, they've been active for, it's sort of implied, a few months at this point. They've done quite well. Like, they got to the point where they're a well-oiled machine. They're having regular calls. After a funky montage that sums it all up. And the reason
ghost blowjob.
And the reason they put the we need an extra pair of hands around here. Ray just never leaves his bed.
No, because he's just.
We think he's depressed, but he always looks so happy. He's got cross-eyed. It's so strange. Oh god. Oh god. Busting apparently makes him feel good.
It does.
But they reach out for an extra pair of hands because they've got too much work, and just another pair of hands who can help them out and join in and do the basics of the busting is what they're after.
But there's a real list of things he's got to believe in.
Yeah,
before he gets that job.
God, that's just. I mean, that's his first line in the movie, isn't it? If there's a steady paycheck in it, I'll believe anything you say. God, he's such a great addition because he does come into it about halfway through the runtime of the movie.
He's the everyman, and he's sort of the beginning of the idea that anyone can be a Ghostbuster.
Yes, because this is the thing: the three founders, they're incredibly likable. We love watching them, and out of the three of them, the one who is closest to maybe being an average Joe is Venkman. But even then, he's still like parapsychologist, like a physicist. Like he still gets what they're doing. He doesn't get the jargon, but he knows what it does. And
he's also a creepy dude who takes tranquilizers on a date with him.
Yes, we'll get into that as well. But Winston's he's just a guy. He's just a bloke, and he joins them on quite possibly the worst possible day.
Yeah.
He joins them on the day that it happens on their first day? No, the containment unit happens later. On confusing scenes. He joins them, we get the speech about the Twinkie in the containment unit.
Yeah, so
and then after a couple weeks with them is when Pet comes to shut it down. Because I noticed that as well when he says, Your Honour, I've been with these guys a couple of weeks.
Yeah, because we were talking about this the other day. It was like, how long had Winston been with them by the time they get shut down? I was adamant that he was with them before the montage, but I hadn't seen the film for a bit.
But I made note of it last night. He says, I've only been with these guys a couple of weeks, Your Honour. But they are the real deal. I have seen shit that would turn you white. It's fucking great delivery. And
Batman '89 is totally more quotable than this movie, Chris. We've quoted half the movie already.
I'm of a mind to make some moogie.
Oh, that's nonsense.
Yes, it is nonsense. But so's this movie in the best possible way.
Man.
But so his inclusion's great. I want to very quickly touch on something. Everyone always says, "Did you know Eddie Murphy was originally cast in that part?" I have seen at least two sources, like from documentaries about the film and articles about the movie, that say no, Eddie Murphy was never even considered.
I think
because I think briefly they toyed with Murphy being involved because he was part of the SNL alumni.
Yeah.
But if they'd have cast him, they would have cast him as one of the other characters. I think they would have cast him as one of the three founders. But then when they realised that, well, hang on, no, We've got the three guys. We're writing it with Harold, Dan, like writing it for themselves, and Bill in mind. So that's never going to happen. But also, like, it would be really distracting as hell if he suddenly rocked up 45 minutes in, because at this point he was starting to become a household name.
Could you imagine an Eddie Murphy Lewis Tully?
No, I don't want to imagine Eddie Murphy Lewis.
I don't want to because I've seen Norbit.
We will. We'll talk more about Lewis, Janine, and Dana when we move on to number 2, because I think we can talk about both movies and stuff. But But let's round off chatting about number 1 for the moment by moving on to everyone's favourite Ghostbuster, aside from me, because mine's Winston, Pete Venkman. I've heard this movie described as a Bill Murray vehicle a couple of times, and though I disagree, really, yeah. But I can see why they think that. Because he made Bill Murray a star. He's the breakout performance in it.
Yeah.
Because suddenly you're in this bizarre story where this weird, creepy, funny, fascinating stuff is happening.
He's like a game show host. He's like a game
show host. He's not a stiff. He's like a game show host. He's just so... His pitch is perfect in this movie. He knows exactly what he's doing. He's dry. He's sarcastic. He's sardonic. He completely understands the weight of what's going on around him, but if it doesn't affect him immediately at that moment, he couldn't give a crap. He'd like to sit down or perv on someone or just take a load off.
It's exactly the right amount of Bill Murray disinterest.
Yeah. In fact, I would argue that Peter Venkman, his role is incredibly important within the story because he's technically the reason why everything goes tits up.
Yes.
Peck visits. Venkman's the first one to talk to him and pisses him off.
Yeah.
Peck comes back with a permit.
I mean, that was
3
always...
weeks later and has the place shut down and turns off the containment unit. Had he not had Egon or Ray been there, there probably would have been a much more pleasant conversation with Peck that would have resulted in the non-termination of their lease of the building and the containment unit being switched off.
Yeah.
Which is what gives Gozer and everything enough... That's what gives it enough power.
I mean, I think that conversation would have still happened, but it would have taken longer. And it could have been averted, I suppose. But yeah, exactly.
We already have Gatekeeper and Keymaster at this point. Like they're already around. They're already around, but I think if I remember correctly, they make reference to the fact that now everything's out. It's like the building's drawing more power from all the chaos.
Yeah.
And maybe the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man would have ended up being about 2 foot tall had the containment unit not been opened. Choose the form of the destructor.
Oh, hello.
Oh, hey.
Tiny Marshmallow Man. Spores!
Venkman is so good. And it also begins the creepy loop of Bill Murray and Lorenzo Music.
Yes.
Because Bill Murray's Venkman. Lorenzo Music plays Venkman in the cartoon show. Lorenzo Music is also the voice of Garfield, who Bill Murray then plays in the movies.
It's ridiculous.
Bloody weird. And I imagine there would be people who swear Bill Murray played both characters across all boards because they're just used to those two voices. Like being part of the same characters.
Oh, there's stuff about the Bill Murray voice in the cartoon that we're probably get to.
Let's hit some highlights because I could talk Ghostbusters 1 all day, man. I freaking love that movie.
Best bits of Ghostbusters 1.
Stay Puft for starters, because visually that is incredible.
The Stay Puft sequence
just
is
this
great.
giant Michelin Man-esque motherfucker just stomping through the city with a massive happy smile on his face as he crushes cars.
Yeah.
And knocks down parts of skyscrapers and just looks terrified. Especially when he crawls up the building and he gets his Chucky face. Where he just starts scowling and screaming as the proton beams hit him.
One of my very earliest memories is having a nightmare about seeing the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man on my window.
Then it must have been pretty tough for you playing the game, which again we'll get to in a bit.
Well, no, because...
when a certain sequence happens and you start to feel, am I doing something wrong? Why does this keep going? Why does this keep going? You know exactly what I'm talking about because you are fresh out of that box, my friend.
Yeah, that's true.
We'll get into that in a moment because that is oh god, that is so well done. But Stay Puft's amazing. The entire Sedgwick section is brilliant, but the library at the beginning just sort of does its job. It does its job so well.
It's really good at establishing all the characters very quickly. Their particular
quirks and relationships to each other.
Yeah, they're dynamic, and then the ghost happens. You're like, oh, okay, that's what this movie is. Cool.
The technology, the way they introduce it in the film slowly but surely is just great. You go like, what is this stuff? It looks like it's made from bits Like it's like a part of a bigger, more dangerous machine. They've just unplugged it and strapped it to themselves.
That's exactly what they've done.
It's just horrifying to look at. Oh god! Like the montage that after they've captured Slimer at the Sedgwick, then there's the montage. Sorry, after they've captured Onion Head at the Sedgwick. Let's get it right. Let's get it period correct.
I think he's actually officially named Peanut for a little bit as well.
Yeah. Because he's not. I think he's credited as Onion Head in the credits at the end of the movie. Because Ivan Reitman's credited as his voice.
Okay, yeah.
Ivan Reitman played him in both movies. He provided the vocal effects for him. Which is so weird.
Just chewing.
It made me wonder. Actually, I've not looked it up, but it makes me wonder if Paul Feig did him for the new one.
We'll see.
I'll have to
take a look up at that.
Have a little look at it. I'll have a little look at it. See if we can get in about it. But just set pieces, the way the film looks, just hitting certain things that just like immediately stay in your head. You hear the siren of Ecto 1, you know instantly it's Ecto 1's siren. Like it's just there. This fine feast represents the last of the petty cash. There's just these little moments.
Chew your food.
Yeah. Oh god. Just so much. Just the way Peter deals with clients. Like the fact that he takes it completely seriously and knows what he's doing when he talks to possessed Dana. To the weird conversation with the lady at the library at the beginning. That's obviously like questions he has to ask just to make sure she's in the right mind, but it all comes across really awkward and creepy. The creepy realization, like you said, that he's got a bunch of tranquilizer with him because that's how he knocks out Dana.
Very strange.
It's a little bit creepy, isn't it?
Very, very strange.
Ugh. But there's too much in that movie to love. Like Lewis's reaction to the terror dog, like just everything. It's such a good movie, and it's such a good movie that I don't know if it was born out of impatience for a follow up or just the studio's desire to cash in on its success, but it led to the creation of an animated series known as The Real Ghostbusters, which. A bit weird. That's not the name of the film, is it? Well, that's because their old friends decided to surface.
Their old friends formation before they could get the Real Ghostbusters movie spin-off cartoon into production. They produced their own cartoon called Ghostbusters, which is now one word, and I'm pretty sure it had a spook trapped in some part of the logo as well. And it was actually a continuation of the original The Ghostbusters series.
Complete with talking
ape, and I think it was the sons of the original characters or something.
Because that always goes well.
Yeah, something like that. And it was, from what I can gather, it was pretty terrible.
But it also was out during the popular
it was out
of Ghostbusters the motion picture.
It was out before the movie spin-off cartoon, so
people got very confused.
Yeah.
Casual television watchers, even not really looking at it for more than 10 seconds to think, oh, this is a different concept entirely, even went so far as to some of them registering complaints, they're making complaint letters, that the gorilla character was a stand-in for one of the cast members of the movie.
Yeah,
which goes to show either they were looking for things to complain about, or they have something about themselves they needed to sit down and think about.
Yeah.
Because, good God, the thing they were accusing them of was pretty horrific.
Yeah.
Luckily, the Real Ghostbusters came along to be the Real Ghostbusters.
Oh, and it was marvellous.
This is where Ghostbusters kind of became a cultural touchstone, because the movie wasn't a huge success at first. It was like a couple of weeks in, wasn't it? It was when people started to really get into it.
I mean, it was always a cult classic, but for the people who were kids at the time, what really captured everyone was the show and the tie-in toy line. And
what a tie-in toy line!
What a tie-in toy line! I used to have a big chunk of it.
You had many. You had the Firehouse.
Yeah.
Ecto 1.
Yeah.
Did you have Ecto 2? Was Ecto 2 a helicopter?
Helicopter.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was trying to remember that yesterday.
I had sort of cast off versions of things because I never could afford the proper toys. So I had to get them like second hand or whatever. So I always had bits missing. And stuff
that's basically me and my Ninja Turtles toys in my childhood.
Some of the stuff I had, like the Firehouse, I had out of the box, and a lot of I had a full set of the Ghostbusters, but they were all Ghostbusters with different gimmicks.
There's like a foot platform on the hose as well. It's sort of like a thing that
it twirls around. It goes down. There's a grate in the ceiling. You put slime in the ceiling and it's nice.
Oh, you had the Ghostbusters with gimmicks like the ones that made scared faces, like you squeeze the legs and their faces.
So I kind of had. I never really got
a
full set. It took me a while to get a full set of them all with regular proton packs.
Yeah. They were all like weird accessories, or fright something.
But I did eventually have a full set of them with the proton packs. I had a weird yellow VW bug that turned into like some kind of mantis thing, like a haunted toilet.
Of course.
All sorts of weird, creepy ghost toys.
This is similar to Ninja Turtles in the sense that some of the toys were completely original, like monsters and stuff, and some of them were based on the cartoon. Some of them were like based on the.
Well, there was a Slimer and there was a Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, and I don't think there was any Gozer or anything like that. But there were. Yeah, I had a Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. I had a big Slimer. There was any other.
Did you have the Proton Pack? The dark blue one with the yellow cable. Did you by any chance lose that? Because there's a bit of a weird history here for you and me.
Oh, yeah.
Because when I was...
I definitely had the Proton Pack because I sold it.
Oh, okay, so in later years. Okay. It's quite possible you may have left it at your friend's house a couple of times when you were younger. Because I remember being about 4, 5, and being at my cousin's house, and playing Ghostbusters. Like, they had a bunch of Ghostbusters gear as well. I think they had Ecto-1 and the trap and stuff. Which had a little inflatable pedal. You stomp on it and it opened
I broke the doors, though.
The doors. Oh, right. I just remember they always tended to have enough room for us to all play. But sometimes they wouldn't. Sometimes they might be packed down. So, years later...
I don't know.
Years later, we meet.
I don't know if that's...
It might not be yours. It may just be my memory playing tricks on me. Yeah. But I remember them being an abundance of Ghostbusters merch.
I mean, I don't remember anything that far back anyway because my brain is an adult mess. But
hang on, you're the smart one.
Yeah,
don't go dying on me now.
I'm smart. I don't have a good memory.
Okay, fair enough. I'll take that. I mean, ask me what issue each Spider-Man villain debuted. I could probably tell you the answer. Ask me what I need to do tomorrow. I will forget.
I've purged a lot of the pain, Chris.
Oh God.
So
years later, we meet in college and we get chatting, and a couple of years after that, I think we get talking about growing up in. We both grew up in a place called Swinton in Manchester, around there, Swinton and Clifton, and we're chatting away.
Yeah.
And I suddenly find out that you knew my cousins. I was like, oh wow, I used to play with them. And we were talking about stuff, and you just started dropping it. Yeah, I play like Transformers and Ghostbusters, and I'm like, wait a cotton picking minute. And I would be surprised if at least once we didn't meet each other during a play session.
I don't think we did because I don't remember anyone.
And any annoying little prick being part of the group.
I don't remember anyone else being there. I just remember the two of them.
Oh, we may not have played, but who knows? You guys may have been playing, and I might have been brought along as a family visit.
I didn't get to go around very often. My parents didn't let me go over to my friends' houses very often when I was little because they all lived across the road, and they wouldn't let me go across the road because it was a road.
Yeah.
And it was dangerous.
Well, knowing which road it is, it was a pretty dangerous road.
Yeah, so I didn't get to go that often, so probably not. But, yeah.
I just think that's really odd that technically our earliest connection is stuff like Ghostbusters.
I think it's serendipity.
It's fucking weird, is what it is. But these are all toys that span out of
the Real Ghostbusters TV show.
Some that were not, big boy, because I only know Real Ghostbusters from a couple of VHS tapes.
I haven't been able to watch much of it recently because I haven't got hold of it, and it's not streaming anywhere, so you have to buy it. And
you can buy it digitally on Amazon Prime, on Amazon Instant Video.
Yeah.
But because of the release of the new movie, the box sets have shot up to like 20 quid each. It's two box sets. So it's £40 if you want to watch it.
And also, you don't want all of it because it got bad after. I mean, we'll touch on it here, but we'll go into deep. We'll look into it, and I think we need to talk about the TV show and Extreme Ghostbusters and the tie-in comics and stuff like that. I think we'll touch on it here, but I think we should dedicate an episode to that.
We'll talk about it more later because of the new movie bringing back kind of notice to the franchise. There may be newcomers to the franchise and to Ghostbusters in general who would like to know what else there is. So one day we'll go into all this stuff that you can explore that you may never even have thought of.
And I think some of that stuff is well worth taking a dive on because certainly the earlier Real Ghostbusters stuff had J. Michael Straczynski as the story editor.
Who is like, Babylon 5?
Yeah, he created Babylon 5.
Best run of Thor in recent years.
I wouldn't say best run of Thor, but certainly a very good one. Certainly revitalised Thor for the 21st century.
Who's your favourite? Kieran Gillen?
Probably Jason Aaron.
Oh, okay.
Kieran Gillen did some good stuff, but he was kind of just in a holding pattern until...
just glad you didn't say Matt Fraction.
Until Matt Fraction came along and then Jason Aaron. But then Kieran Gillen would do his better work on Journey into Mystery, but that's a discussion for another time.
But so basically you had some very top writing talent working on this animated series.
And it was
some damn good voiceover talent as well.
Maurice LaMarche and Lorenzo Music.
The mighty Frank Welker.
Oh, Frank Welker.
As both Ray and Slimer.
Yeah.
Who got his name mentioned out loud finally?
Yes, Slimer was named in the cartoon, and was kept around as sort of a, because the cartoon doesn't take place in the movie universe, but the cartoon actually picks up directly from the end of the movie.
So if you want to think that they're in the same place, you could get away with it.
Yeah.
It explains why Slimer is, for some reason, free in Ghostbusters 2 as well.
Yeah.
He's hanging around the fire station during a montage, and then he's driving a bus later during the chaos.
Yeah, they sort of... Egon keeps him around as sort of a willing test subject, and Ray keeps him around as a pet, and Venkman is not happy about any of that.
And Winston's indifferent.
Winston,
if there's a steady paycheck in it,
he'll believe anything
he doesn't care. True to character.
But then, after the show was really successful, then the network who were producing it, then brought some consultants in to fix the show that didn't need fixing much.
It was the highest rated Saturday morning cartoon show on television.
It was doing really well, and they were like, you know what? We need to save the show. I don't know what they needed to save it from, but the changes they wanted to make ended up upsetting J. Michael Straczynski to the point where he just left the show, and the show sort of descended downward. They brought Slimer into more focus.
It became Slimer and the Real Ghostbusters.
Yeah, he got his own little Slimer show segment as part of the program, which was like a little slapstick separate show of the Slimer adventures. They made Janine, who was actually not very much of a stereotype female character in the original version of the cartoon. They made her more stereotypical. They made Winston the driver. They made the only black character in the show the driver. They wanted to write out... They got rid of the antagonism between Peter and Slimer. They wanted to write Ray out of the show because now there's no antagonism between Peter and Slimer.
I mean, good luck with them for that one. Like I think they never got beyond that as an idea, did they? But like, imagine if they'd taken that. Imagine if they'd taken that to... Because I believe Reitman still had sort of final say on stuff. When it came to like big changes.
Yeah, I think so.
A contract which still sort of roughly stands till today, actually.
Yeah, he's very involved.
So, like, if they'd have come to him and said, right, so we want to get rid of Dan's character, it would have been like, no. How dare you?
We want to get rid of the character played by one of the people who wrote the film that this is based on. That's good luck with that. So it doesn't. A lot of the voice cast changed. Like the Lorenzo Music went out, and then they just got somebody doing a Bill Murray impression.
It was Dave Courier.
Dave Courier. Just not good, man.
Yeah.
Maurice LaMarche stuck on. Maurice LaMarche is actually the only voice actor who went the whole way through because he
portrayed Egon in the next incarnation.
He was in the Extreme Ghostbusters as well, yeah, and brilliant, just brilliant.
One episode I do remember, like vaguely, is the one about the boogeyman.
Yeah, because
it turns out to be the reason Egon gets into parapsychology and the paranormal in general, because he was haunted by the boogeyman as a child, and it fueled his passion to know more about it.
Yeah.
To the point where in the episode they confront the boogeyman and stuff, and he freezes up, like he can't fight it because it's like muscle memory to him. It's his childhood fear. And it's such an interesting idea, like taking the character of Egon, who we don't really go on any emotional journey with in either of the films.
I mean, we don't really go on an emotional journey with any of the characters in the films.
Yeah, true.
It's more, it's not really about...
We get hints of it with Venkman and Dana in the second one, but even then, it's stuff that happened between films that we don't see.
Yeah.
So, they obviously play with what they wanted to play with. But it's cool that the cartoon could do that and fiddle around with the formula. It got rid of Winston's mustache, which freaked me out. To the point where when they get rid of it in the second movie, I'm like, that's not Winston.
That's strange.
I mean, it is Winston, but where's his mustache? Where's his cool little tag?
I imagine they only did it solely because it was easier to animate.
Yeah, quite possibly. Well, they all look different as well, but they all have a very stylised look.
Yeah, and
Venkman gets a weird heroic profile. I always find that strange when they take lead characters who aren't sort of straight up handsome guys in the animated versions and make them handsome. Godzilla, the animated series, takes Matthew Broderick's Nyctotopoulos and turns him into
Nyctotopoulos, the worm guy.
The worm guy. A guy's nickname is the worm guy. They turn him into like sort of sexy action man in the TV show. It's like, what is this?
It's really weird, isn't it?
What is this?
Otherwise, that show's actually pretty good.
It's not bad, is it? It was part of that boom in sort of the late 2000s of movie tie-in shows that kind of work.
Yeah, like Extreme Ghosts was part of that, and then Men in Black.
Men in Black was really good.
But anyway, back to
yeah,
Ghostbusters.
so real good. Like Peter sort of kind of raised sort of pudgy comic relief sort of look to him. Like Winston, just again the everyman. Winston looks like a normal guy who just happens to be with the group because the other three sort of have like weird sort of designs. Like Egon's got that ice cream cone quiff,
wonderful hair,
and a bit of a mullet at the back.
So good.
And the red glasses, and they've all got their own suits. And Winston just looks like a normal dude. Just like walking around.
Although occasionally, due to animation errors, he was white.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Because that animation was real cheap.
Yeah, we're doing an episode of the Real Ghostbusters
at some point.
This is too fascinating. So the Real Ghostbusters keeps the popularity of the brand going to the point where the studio actually get a little impatient. Say to Ivan Reitman, "Look, are you going to make a follow up?" Because again, he had final say on if it happened. He had first choice of director for the franchise and stuff. And he and Dan Aykroyd had a chat, and they sort of went about 3 years after the original. They were like, okay, I mean, yeah, I guess there's another story we could tell. So they bashed the idea around a bit. 5 years after the first movie, we get
the same story.
The same story. We get the first movie again.
Which actually I don't mind at all.
Yeah, I mean, as we said at the start, we seem to be an anomaly on the internet.
I really like Ghostbusters
2.
I mean, it's not as good as the first movie, hands down.
No,
but it's
not
pretty damn good.
It hits similar beats.
I like it a lot.
Structurally, but you get the development of the psychology, the parapsychology, and the paranormal elements. Because in the first movie, it's like, right, we've got ghosts. We also have a demonic demigod entity coming through to our world. Some ghosts look like people. Some of them look like monsters. Like, so there's different kinds of ghosts, and they never say like these are brawlers, these are spooks, these are slimers. Like they just
5 floating vapor.
Yeah, it's a full torso apparition. It's things like that. So you can totally buy that. Okay, ghosts come in different shapes and sizes. The TV show obviously plays on that a lot. You get like goblin things.
Yeah,
you get Cthulhu in one of them.
Yeah,
like you get a lot of really interesting designs. So the second movie goes, okay, we're going to play on that. The villain in question here is a river of psychically enhanced slime.
A river of slime!
That feeds off of negativity. It doesn't have a personality, but it can be harnessed.
Yeah.
And in this case, it's harnessed by the spirit of a Carpathian warlord, Vigo.
He is Vigo! You are like the buzzing of flies to him!
The scourge of Moldavia. Commands you. Command me, Lord!
Who is the scourge of Carpathia?
The sorrow of Moldavia.
Yes, the sorrow. I have heard this. So good.
So good. Is it wife to you and mother to me?
It's so very, very good. So where are you from anyway? The Upper West Side. So just Peter McNichol is glorious.
He's brilliant in that movie.
Chewing all the scenery.
Janosch is a big reason as to why I like that movie too. Because here's the thing.
Man.
We sort of get enough of a glimpse into what's going on with him and Vigo to get the gist of their plan and the villain's plot. But we leave them alone enough so that when they arrive in the film, you go, oh, it's this again. Especially him. Like, it's a joy to see him.
Yeah.
It's just so infectiously creepy.
And his performance is spot on.
It's
and
brilliant.
He's just...
It's absolutely brilliant.
It's...
He's very good at playing unhinged characters.
Yeah.
The from the subtly unhinged, like the scout leader in Addams Family Values. Do you know what I mean? To a man on the brink of a midlife crisis and a breakdown in Bean, the ultimate disaster movie. He's great in that film. He's my favourite thing about that movie. Rowan Atkinson obviously is the highlight of the film, but like Peter McNichol, it's just the way he's so good in Bean. And then like most recently, he's the Mad Hatter in the Arkham games.
Yeah, he's brilliant.
He's so good.
Brilliant.
He's really, really disturbing. But as Janosch, he's a great balance between creepy and funny, and he hits the nail on the head, and it means that we get more time with Dana as well.
Yeah, who we haven't talked about from the first movie.
Let's touch on Dana. Sigourney Weaver,
I love
soaring
Sigourney Weaver.
high from the success of Alien and subsequent films. By the time Ghostbusters rolls around, still 2 years away from Aliens. So Ghostbusters is almost the beginning of her rise, I think, because like Alien, amazing, but it'd been 5 years, and then Ghostbusters. And then Aliens.
She's such
and then Ghostbusters 2. And then Alien 3. Like, at this point, she is now hitting leading lady or ensemble cast of stars status. She's on the poster for Ghostbusters.
I think she was always more of a theatre performer anyway, but she's got this sort of... I mean, she's tall, and she's lean, and she's strong, and she's not, like, busty, or she's not got, like, a big curvy butt, but she's got this sort of feminine strength to her where she's not the kind of...
It's safe to say it. Sigourney Weaver is an incredibly beautiful, sexy presence because of who she is. It's the way she carries herself. It's the elegance of her performance.
She's never overly sexualised in her roles, but she's just very... She's got a steel to her. Yeah. That's wonderful. But then...
She's magnetic.
Yeah. And when you see her an alien, she gets to show it off, which is like... But in the Ghostbusters movie, she's playing a much more... average woman, she's a musician, she's artistic, she's a
little bit pompous, a little bit, but she's also, but her heart's in the right place. She's not a dick.
She's savvy enough to get Venkman's act, but then she's also
she's won over by the charm that's there. Yeah, but she's tough enough to tell him to freaking knock it off when he's going too far.
And clearly it didn't work out between them, probably because she was a bit too savvy. But then she ended up marrying someone who didn't work out.
Yeah, they sum it up in number 2. They say that basically, like, he got a little too... it's almost like he got bored. Yeah. And that put her off. And it's not that he was bored, it's the blasé nature of how he is. It's the cockiness. But she was like, I needed more than that. So she leaves. And ends up in a relationship. And has a child between the movies. The relationship doesn't work out. She's now a single mother looking after Oscar. You're named after a hot dog. You poor man. You poor man. I'm just going to put him down. May I? Sure. You're smelly. You're a terrible burden on your poor mother. It's just... Oh, oh God. He says 3 things. You're short. You're stinky. You're a terrible burden on your poor mother. That baby... Well, the babies that play Oscar, they're so cute. They get the best reactions. There's only one moment in the movie you think they've dubbed the sound there. The rest of the time it seems to be reactions on set.
Yeah. Very good.
Murray's really good with kids. And that sounds weird to say, but the first scene where he's sort of meant to be getting the stool sample, which he then obviously just waits for someone to show up, in this case Dana, and then makes them do it. Like he's so gentle with the kid. And the scenes with the 3 of them in Ghostbusters 2 are some of my favourite scenes.
Yeah, they slot.
The second film starts to humanise Venkman. Because you see see the cracks in him in the second one.
You see the cracks in it humanises everyone. Like, there's a wonderful scene at the very start of the movie where... So the movie starts with it's Dana, she's walking through the streets with Oscar, and then the pram rolls through some slime, and then she's talking to a doorman before she goes back up to her apartment, and then the pram rolls off and it goes on this thing through the streets of New York. It nearly gets run over and it stops. And she finds, like, oh God, what happened? So then she goes to Egon for help. Yeah. And there's this wonderful scene with Egon just doing his research in his lab, and he's talking to Dana, and then he's doing his side stuff, and then you just see this little bit of warmth in him. Yeah. That it's like you'd never really see in the other movie. Because like, Egon's a human being, and these two have a relationship.
Egon's never cold.
No, but he's not.
But he is sort of like he's like they say people are like, oh, they were cold. You sort of think like a morgue table. Egon's like sort of the table with the tools on it in the dentist's. Like, it's all there for a good reason, and it's not particularly morbid kind of table, but
there's a wonderful moment in one of the episodes of the cartoon where this is a Maurice LaMarche wonder where they're at a party, and Egon just turns to her and she goes, "I want you to know I'm having an amazing time." And he means it completely. He's completely sincere, but that's as excited as Egon ever gets.
I love that. Like,
and this is also the moment in the first movie where it's like, we mentioned before, I'm sorry, but I'm terrified beyond the capacity for rational thought.
And it just sounds like he's basically saying, could you pass me that screwdriver?
Yeah, it's just completely on one level. But there's that little scene at the beginning, it goes to show, I mean, one of the reasons why both these movies are so great is because those actors embody those characters perfectly. Yeah. But they are performances. Like, no one's really playing themselves. No. Bill Murray, to an extent, does have that kind of sardonic disaffection in real life. But
Dan Aykroyd does have a passion for these things.
But he's Ray. He's not as innocent as Ray.
Ray's a vessel. Ray is an excuse for him to sort of, like, I say pretend this is real. Dan Aykroyd believes in this stuff. But this is a chance for him to be like, this is real, and we're going to do a story where it's definitely real, and his enthusiasm fuels Ray's enthusiasm. But Ray's not Dan Aykroyd, and Venkman is close to Murray, but he's still a character, and Egon is definitely a character, and Winston's definitely a character, and good lord.
But that first scene where you bring Egon and Dana back together, and it's just
so sweet.
The characters are so.
But even then, the scientific sort of barrier pops up. The moment she leaves, they introduce that kid in the moon experiment to the dog, and he goes,
see what happens if you
take away the dog.
It's so good. It's so good. Yeah, because she kisses him on the cheek, and she goes, and he has that moment of like, he just kind of...
He has that really lovely smile, where you see him sort of go, I'm doing a good thing.
Yeah, I'm doing a good thing, I'm thinking normal person.
I hope she's okay. It was nice to see her. There's so much on his face, and then it's like, let's get rid of that puppy and make that kid miserable.
And it just... And people complain that the Ghostbusters 2 is too much the same movie as Ghostbusters, and that the characters haven't developed anymore. And I'm like, well, that's because I wanted to see more. It is more of them. And that's what I wanted. Exactly what I wanted.
Ghostbusters 2 feels like the sort of story you would tell if there'd been another one in between.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, it does feel because they've got the whole thing of, at the beginning of Ghostbusters 2.
They only own the license now. They don't even own the right to use their equipment anymore.
There's no
because the fees they had to pay to the city and various other places after the events of the first movie.
Yeah, and then they get blanked by the mayor, and they get mentioned. They got stiffed out of they got sued for a bunch of damages.
I mean, they imply that they did a few other things.
Yeah.
Which could be a nod to the cartoon.
Yeah.
It could be like, they've had other adventures, but they basically say that the events of the first movie, the big victory at the end of that movie, led to their eventual downfall within the next 5 years.
Yeah.
I mean, at the beginning, the birthday party thing, which is sort of really lovingly homaged in. Did you see the fourth Turtles movie, the animated one, TMNT?
No, I've not. No.
Mikey's doing birthday parties.
Brilliant.
He basically, you see this Ninja Turtle like character at a birthday party, and then he leaves the party and he gets in the van. And he takes the head off, and it's just Mikey with a head on. It's just really nice because in that it's sort of like a getting the band back together thing. Like so much happened between the third and the fourth one, and they've parted ways. But in Ghostbusters, it is genuinely sad. It is really sad to think that
they did so
all
much,
the goodwill and all the work,
yeah,
and now they're just sort of like
everyone kind of thinks
a bit of a novelty.
Again. So it seems like there's not much ghostly activity going on.
But that seems to be a trope of. I think the reason why it feels a bit sour to some people as well, like this film, is because it sort of becomes obvious that's a trope of Aykroyd's storytelling. Aykroyd has a good story in him, and then the second story is about the people in the first story becoming successful again.
He did exactly the same thing with the Blues Brothers.
Blues Brothers 2. Well, I mean, people have a problem with Ghostbusters 2. I'm sorry, Blues Brothers 2000 is a whole other kettle of shit. It's a dreadful movie.
Put that on the poster. It's a whole other kettle of shit.
Ghostbusters 2 commits no crimes at all in comparison to Blues Brothers 2000.
No, I like Ghostbusters 2.
But you can see why people don't like it.
I get why people don't like it, but the problems that people tend to have with it, i.e. that it's more of the same and the characters aren't developed.
But you get more
beyond their Ghostbusters.
But you get more of Janine and Lewis.
That's exactly what I want. That's a bit weird, though.
That is
weird. The Janine and Lewis thing is a bit weird.
It is weird. It almost feels like it's there because they wanted those two in the film again.
Yeah.
And they were like, well, this is the plot. But the problem is, Annie Potts and Rick Moranis are having so much fun with it that it's still enjoyable. Yeah. It feels odd and out of place.
It feels a bit weird. It feels a bit weird for Janine.
Yeah, but then again, they do set up in the first one. Janine's got a thing for nerdy guys.
Yeah, she seems like a bit of a kitten.
Who's more geeky and nerdy than Egon? It's Lewis Tully.
It's just.
It seems like and I like the idea that he's an accountant, but he also deals in law, and to the point where he's the only person they could get to represent them at the trial, which again is a phenomenal set piece. The trial is amazing.
And it's just, we should mention Rick Moranis again from the first movie as well. That he just has a wonderful physicality to his performance. He's just so.
All of the possession scenes with him and Sigourney Weaver, like they play that as well as they play the stuff pre-possession. Yeah. They're clearly having fun playing both sides of the role.
And he's just so brittle and timid. And
in number 2 with the equipment on, the way he just sort of like waddles out of the front of the station. He's got his earmuffs on, and his hair's slicked down even more, almost like he's preparing for.
And then he goes to take the bus. He goes to get the bus to
make good decisions. Just queues up for the bus to get to. Oh my god!
But there's a wonderful moment. It's in the credits of Ghostbusters 2, where they've got the credits rolling and they've got little character moments, But he's a
Like,
wonderful
a couple from during the film, a couple clearly sort of like just extra bits.
But it's a wonderful bit of physical comedy where he comes out of the firehouse, then goes to go back in, goes to open the little door, ends up opening the big door, but the little door opens inward, so he goes inside, comes back out, closes the big... just go and look up on YouTube. It's a wonderful little bit of physical comedy, and there's loads of little moments like that Rick Moranis does. It makes me kind of sad that Rick Moranis isn't
acting anymore, yeah. Because, good lord. He says he will.
He's so good.
He has said he will, because obviously when the new movie went to production, it's like someone managed to get hold of him and interview him. Like, I guess it was a local radio station or something. They were like, oh, we know a guy who knows him, let's ask him. And they basically said, like, have they approached you for a cameo? And he says, yeah, they've approached me, I'm not interested.
Yeah, he's waiting for the right script to come along before he gets another acting
which could be seen as really picky, but at the same time, he's been out of the game so long, because he did legitimately retire at one point.
Yeah.
Due to the passing of his wife. Like, it was really unfortunate. He retired to basically be dad and be family. Be family man and stay at the family and look after everybody. So he left acting for a completely understandable reason.
Yeah.
But obviously in recent years he's maybe gone, do you know what, I miss it, I would do it again. And he's just been offered stuff that isn't great. And he's like, if I'm going to do it again, the thing I'd do it for has got to be like guys, Rick Moranis is back. Like, mic drop kind of moment.
Or maybe he doesn't want to do that. Maybe he just wants to do something that he thinks is worth his time rather than it being a big tentpole thing. But I think...
no, but when I say Rick Moranis is back, I mean just a part that, like, he can really sink his teeth into. So in a way where you go, in a way where you go, like, that thing was brilliant. I tell you what was really good. Rick Moranis playing that guy. He was so good in that. It was so nice to see him again.
Rick Moranis is brilliant. He's
a talented mother.
He's been in some bad stuff. Like, Cunning I Blew Up the Kid is not a great movie.
No, but come on, like, the amount of good things he's been in. And what's the this is something we haven't seen enough of in the UK, actually. What's the Canadian double act he was part of?
I have no idea.
Oh, God, what they call it? It's going to really bother me. But he's part of, like, they did sketches and then they did films and stuff.
There's some Canadian comedy worth looking at. We'll have to look that up.
But he's fantastic, and he's so good in Ghostbusters 2. Vigo, like, played by like a Hungarian wrestler, voiced by Max von Sydow.
Oh, it's so good!
It's just such a good touch. Like, he's proper spooky. Like, that painting is creepy as hell.
Yeah,
I've always said,
great villain.
I've always said, if I get more money than sense, like if I suddenly win the lottery and get like £30 million, I'm like spending like 300 grand on a house or something, and just going, I'm gonna live in that now. I'm going to probably have a couple parties to celebrate at the beginning of it all, and then the rest is all going away. But the one sort of daft luxury item I would allow myself would be a life-size Vigo painting.
So good.
Because imagine having that just like at the top of your stairs or in like your basement or something, and just someone finding it and going, oh!
On a mountain of skulls, in a castle of pain, I sit on a throne of blood. So good, just like it's so over the top, and
it's just he's freaky to look at, and the ghosts that come in his wake is what the Scaleri brothers. Legitimately, they are my
wonderful.
They are my earliest nightmare that I remember having. I remember having a nightmare about them.
I've heard criticisms that they're too cartoony. I'm like, look at the ghost designs in the first movie.
Yeah,
come on.
There are very few ghosts that look like people in these films directly. Like, they either look like warped visions of the human form, or monsters.
And Scaleri brothers are a good way to split the difference.
Because they're clearly people, but they're demonic. It's almost like the more evil you were in life, the freakier you are in death.
Which says a lot about Slimer, I guess.
Yeah,
maybe he was just slothful.
Well, I think Slimer, the notes for him again originally, I think he was a dude who died gorging himself in the hotel.
Well,
like I think he died on room service. He kept ordering it, and he choked himself to death and died, and that's why he haunts the Sedgwick, because he's just a fat dude wandering around looking for room service.
They've said in like behind the scenes stuff that certainly Ivan Reitman thought of him as the ghost of John Belushi.
Yes, because John did enjoy
a buffet. Lived a hedonistic life.
That's my version was putting it very lightly. Yours was putting it much closer to the truth.
Yes,
we won't elaborate any further.
No, just go and look up John Belushi. You'll be
But that's quite a nice. I like the fact that they sort of said Slimer is the ghost of John Belushi.
Yeah.
But the character of Onion Head and Peanut, it apparently was somebody who died in the hotel gorging themselves.
Yeah.
Hence why he's just wandering around eating stuff, which makes complete utter sense. The Scaleri brothers, evil men, both given the chair, both out for revenge on the judge that sentenced them, quite possibly unfairly.
The Scaleri brothers. Try to for give him the chair!
Like, they are quite possibly horrific murderers, or they're wrongfully accused murderers.
I don't know. They look pretty murderous to me.
I mean, because it gave me nightmares. Lucy told me the last night while we were watching the movie. Like, she has a terror of red eyes. Red eyes freak her out.
And there's some serious red eyes in
well,
there.
apparently the thing that did it was the Terminator.
Oh, yeah.
And the Scoleri brothers. I don't think their eyes are like red, but they've got the glowing, fiery gaze. Just freaky looking dudes.
Baleful eyes.
And then this beautiful cross of people in suits and stop motion figurines.
Yeah.
So you get this nice movement that is tailored to the shot that it's in. Like
those faces, that skeletal face, the thin ones.
And then the sort of the Violator from Ghostbusters 2-esque design of the bigger one, and you've got the coat made of is it mink ferrets or whatever? Like,
yeah, love that moment later on when you get another montage of ghost. You get one in the first one, you get one in the second one. Ghostly stuff happening all around New York. And you get the mink coat coming alive. Oh, they love the montages.
They do. Well, they love their songs that are clearly talking about the plot of the film.
Ghostbusters, yes, we're back.
I'm afraid of no ghosts.
Yeah.
Is that the DMC version?
It's Bobby Brown, I think.
That's Bobby Brown.
Because Bobby Brown is in Ghost. He's the doorman who asks for a proton pack.
Yes, for his kid brother.
I think his nephew.
And again, he goes on his such love is like that. No. Like,
proton pack is not a toy. It's like, yeah, I guess he's probably right.
The scene with the mayor, like we see Vinny again, you get that brilliant bit where he says, like, we're happy to report that over 50% of us voted for you in the last mayoral election.
Nearly 50% of us voted.
Nearly 50% of us.
Which is like, well, what does that even mean? Because there's four of you.
And even if you count Janine, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Like,
like,
what does that mean? Oh god, there's just stuff like that is brilliant. Once again, they fight their greatest enemy, which they face across both movies, which is 80s authority dicks.
Yeah, they get committed by someone who wants to stop them from going to the press to
because we forgot
the
to
mayor.
mention William Atherton in the first one, the fantastic
so good.
Walter Peck. He's so good. And here's the thing with that, is that as a kid, I don't think any kid really appreciates how good that performance is.
Yeah.
Or even remembers that role, really. I think as a kid, I'd always forget Peck. I remember Bill Murray being sarcastic to someone, but I don't really think about Peck. The older I get, the more I'm like, he's one of the best parts of that first movie.
He's not in it very much, because he's brilliant.
Because he's such a brilliant excuse for Venkman to show off just how much of a dick he can be.
Yeah. I mean, they're both. Neither of them are good people.
No.
But they really bounce off each other in nasty ways, and it's great. It's a great.
What is the magic word, Dr. Venkman?
Please.
Sorry, was that Christopher Walken? Please.
Please.
Wow, he slammed me. I feel funky.
I feel.
Back off, man. I'm
a
scientist. But yeah. Any excuse to whip him out. Listen, do you smell that?
Oh god, it's so good. Just thinking about it makes me laugh. Oh.
So, but William Atherton's Peck's great, and it is almost a loss that he's not in the second one. I can't remember the actor's name, but we get the guy who again sort of tends to play dicks.
Yeah.
And he does a good job, and his character's fine, but it almost feels a bit like a Peck avatar. He's one of the elements that I think is why people sort of go, it's the same story.
Yeah.
And there is one other thing that is kind of an obvious copy-paste in a way. The first one ends with a giant figure, the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man.
Mm-hmm.
So the second one ends with an animated Statue of Liberty walking through New York City.
There's the slime river that runs under New York in this movie is psychomagnetheric, which means that it absorbs emotions and it can become either positively or negatively charged. So they cover the inside of the Statue of Liberty.
Is every New Yorker's God-given right. And here they are fueling this hate slime. So they take the nice slime, the happy slime that they have been they have been coaxing, teasing, and as you realised last night for the first time, sleeping with.
Yeah, there's a wonderful moment where where Egon tries to brush aside the fact that he's been
sleeping with the slime
as part of his experiments.
Because I found this fascinating because I noticed that like nearly every time. Like, obviously being older as a kid,
Yeah.
right out of my head. But you mentioned that, I think, did you say that last night was the first time you watched like a DVD, like a home release version of it in a while?
No, because I've seen it. I saw it about 3 weeks ago, which was the first time I noticed that there's that. I've always remembered the line was like, Venkman's like, "You're not sleeping with it, are you, Ray?" And then Ray looks at Egon, and Egon looks guilty. But what I hadn't noticed till when I watched it a couple of weeks back, and then again last night,
quite possibly due to a couple of little TV.
Yeah, this might have been a TV edit, but after is then Venkman and Winston's reaction, and Winston then saying, "It's always the quiet ones," and I was like, "Oh man, I never got." Imagine because I think before I watched it a couple of weeks back, I haven't seen Ghostbusters 2 like since before I lived in London, so for like 7 or 8 years.
Oh blimey!
At least
that we need to fix that. I have at least 2 screenings of both movies twice a year.
Man. Well, I watch Ghostbusters pretty regularly. I don't even own it. I just find ways to watch it pretty regularly. Because these it's just on. I think I've got it TiVo'd as well.
But suddenly last night, there you were going, "Oh God, Egon puts his dick in slime."
And it's just... But anyway...
I think the implication is more that they're, like, cuddling it or something, or they're, like, keeping it near them, but...
No.
No.
The implication is that Egon has done the nasty with that slime.
Your love!
Keeps lifting me higher. So, yeah, it's a wonderful scene. After that moment, they put some of it in a toaster and they play it... they play it Jackie Wilson and it starts dancing. So what they do later on is they spray the inside of the Statue of Liberty with positively charged slime. And then they play Jackie Wilson through giant speakers. And then they use a NES Advantage.
Yes.
So that's like the joystick controller for the NES. They use one of them to pilot the newly animated Statue of Liberty through the streets of New York City so it can smash the top of the museum with its torch while the people sing Auld Lang Syne outside.
Ghostbusters 2, everyone.
Now that's a New York movie.
Yeah, definitely. Something pure. How did they get across to Liberty Island so quick? And back for that matter. So
the
quick.
Ellis Island incident.
You know your love.
So good.
Keep on lifting. I could talk about this one forever.
There's so many wonderful moments in it, and there's things like cheap. So good.
That entire bit is just creepy.
Did you get the number of the train? Sorry, I missed it.
Oh,
the Cheech Marin cameo when the Titanic turns up at the docks.
That's a great shot. Well, believe it never. That is so good. Just the bathtub coming to life.
Oh, that's a great one.
Proper freaky.
That's another one that freaked me out as a little kid.
God, what else? There's just so many.
Because Hoover's taking a top off. Ooh.
Dirty bastard. I can't remember what the name of that arch thing is in New York. But you get
it looks like the Arc of Triumph, but yeah.
But you get the shot of like the big sort of like Rancor-esque creature, like
a great little
gearing through
creature moment.
You just want to see more stuff like that, and just the music, dun 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 dun, and all that stuff, and it just, oh god, the double bluff ending and the "I love you, man, I love you too." It's just, it's great.
Covered in slime, the weird painting at the end.
Yeah, which again, like,
with Oscar.
As a kid, never realised it. As a teenager, thought that was weird. Last night, suddenly decided in my head, look, one of the paintings was possessed by a like an ancient murderer. Surely another one, probably supernatural, and is just going, "Thanks, guys." Like, do you know what I mean? It's got to be something like that. Has
but
to
then
be.
Also, we know that
or maybe
last.
that's what Dana's been working on secretly between cleaning paintings.
We know that doesn't last because in the video game, the painting is back to normal. Let's talk about Ghostbusters, the video game.
Yes. Betwixt them, there was the series Extreme Ghostbusters, which was, as the 90s would imply, extreme, and it was pretty funky, and we'll go into detail on that in a later
Egon
episode.
training a new young team a couple of years after.
Which was an idea for a third script that even then was being sort of, like, tossed around.
Yeah, before we get to, like, the actual Ghostbusters the game, the road leading to there, for many years after there was, like, are we going to do a third one? I don't think Bill Murray was that interested. I don't think any of them were that interested.
Well, Bill Murray reportedly wasn't interested in number 2. And only years later did he sort of say, when asked, would you do a third one? We're talking like, it was recently, it's 5 years ago, he said the wounds of the second one have healed. Which was his way of basically saying, I've got over it.
I don't feel like that. I mean, people like to say that he clearly wasn't interested in the second one, but watching it, I don't feel like he's... He doesn't bring it to screen.
Yeah,
I mean, people say that you can see that he's not bothered, but I never got that sense off the second one.
Then again, he doesn't really break into song in the second one like he always. That moment in the first movie.
Call it fate.
Call it karma.
I love it.
It's the music rises with him, and you're like, "Oh my god, is this a musical?"
And it's not.
Is this a musical?
It's just such a weird moment, isn't it?
How are you gonna get the money? I don't know. I don't know.
He says it with such glee. Everyone has 3 mortgages now.
So you get to the 90s, and there's the holdover. Real Ghostbusters goes on to 92.
Yeah, and then
merchandise still sells well enough that eventually someone goes, "Do you know what? This is a brand we should keep alive."
Yeah.
And a year prior to its actual debut, a new series called Super Ghostbusters was teased in print.
Mm-hmm.
To later on be revealed as Extreme Ghostbusters, which wasn't as extreme as everyone was like sort of obviously expecting from the title and the fact it was the 90s, but it was a new team. It was set like 10 years after the events of the second movie.
Yeah.
The Winston, Ray, and Peter had all moved on to other things. Egon was looking after the business in New York.
Well, it wasn't a business anymore. He was just looking after the containment and teaching.
That was it, wasn't it? Yeah, because it kind of like wounded down, hadn't it? Like,
well, there'd been no ghosts for a while because everyone thinks they're hacks again, and there's a public engagement where someone's like, "And why did you stop busting ghosts?" And Egon's like, "There were no ghosts there were no ghosts." So everyone thinks that they were frauds, but then he gets a new team together out of the only 4 people that enroll in his college class, apart from also Janine.
Yes. Who sort of gets sort of young aged downwards a bit, doesn't she?
No, she's the same age, but I think the implication was always that she was younger than the Ghostbusters, which is not the case.
No.
Because in this, Egon is portrayed as past it when he's 39, despite Harold Ramis being older than that in Ghostbusters 1.
Yeah.
So, but hey, kids shows. And it's like a relatively diverse new young team. Well, I say relatively diverse. There's a goth girl and a Latino dude.
Hey, let us not dismiss Kylie as simply the goth girl.
Kylie was
the first cartoon crush for a lot of people. I have been told. So, now I was the right age for that cartoon when it came out, and it was on CITV in the UK, and I dug it, and I had some of the merch. I had like the Proton Blaster, which was separate. You could get the pack, but there was a version that was separate from the pack, which was the blaster, and I had that, and it projected ghosts on the wall, and you fired like balls at the end of it. Yeah. It was pretty funky. And I had Kylie and Eduardo. I still have I had Eduardo's motorcycle. It's in this room somewhere, actually.
Somewhere.
I used to use it for like Wolverine.
Nice,
because it was the right size.
There was never a Garrett toy. There was prototypes, but it never was released.
Yeah. Oh no. There's prototypes, and he was in like sort of a Professor X-esque floating chair, wasn't he?
It's like a big all-terrain wheelchair or something. But
which was really weird.
He was a character in a wheelchair.
I wanted there to be a toy of him when I first went shopping for toys at the Tesco in Walkden, which was a Tesco in Walkden back then. That's where I got my Extreme Ghostbusters toys from. Yeah. And I went in with some pocket money, aiming to buy Ghostbusters stuff, and I wanted him because he was my favourite character. And he wasn't there. So I bought Kylie and Eduardo. And eventually I would get Slimer and this see-through green monster thing that sort of had like tentacles and a big rubber mouth.
Nice.
And it's some pretty cool stuff.
I mean, the cast was alright. I mean, Kylie wasn't too stereotypical goth girl. Eduardo was kind of the venkman of the team, and he even had that I'm a scientist catchphrase, but wasn't a scientist.
Yeah, he was the Venkman kind of archetype, really, wasn't he? And
there was a will they, won't they between Kylie and Eduardo, but it never went anywhere.
Yeah,
Garrett was
she was too good for him.
Yes, Garrett was.
She deserved a real man who at the time happened to be a.
Garrett was a character in a wheelchair who didn't really make a big deal about being in a wheelchair and didn't seem to hold him up, so that was cool. Roland was as a black character who never really did anything with,
which is a shame.
It was kind of like
I think he had a couple of episodes where he was the focal point in the episodes, but it wasn't any like character developing stuff. It was more a case of like, oh, he's just going to be the guy who we follow this week. I mean, they never go through the journey.
I don't remember that they ever really did anything with him, so I think he was like the techie of the team, but
maybe they would have gone into it further because it was one season and then an extra order, and it came to about 40 odd episodes, including a 2-part finale with the real Ghostbusters returning albeit without the exact likeness of the Real Ghostbusters cartoon because there were some rights issues.
Well, there is a
but
statue.
They still have the same colouring of the characters from... The characters are coloured the same way as they were in the Real Ghostbusters.
Well, there is a statue of Real Ghostbusters Pete Venkman in the firehouse in
a mid-season episode, yeah,
but it has its face blurred out.
Because, of course, at some point in animation they were probably told, oh no, we don't have the rights to the images of... Because even Egon loses his quiff in Extreme Ghostbusters. He's got a ponytail. But he's got a ponytail and the same colour hair.
Yeah.
So it's clearly meant to be a sequel to the cartoon.
But anyway, we'll do a deep dive on the cartoons anyway. But that's one of the things that kept the Ghostbusters flame alive.
At least in the 90s. Come the 2000s, there's not much news. We get the DVD releases. We get a DVD box set, which I showed you last night. It was a gorgeous thing.
That's what I watched last night.
Green and gooey with this booklet and weird CG menus with Stay Puft or the Statue of Liberty walking through the menus.
Yeah, lovely storyboard art in the booklet.
It's nice, isn't it? Some good stuff. And that was it. There was just talk of sequels. Dan Aykroyd would be the person who would mention it a lot. He'd say, like, oh, maybe do a sequel, we might do a follow-up. Oh, yeah, I've been typing a new script around. And he genuinely did. One of his ideas was loosely adapted into what became Atari's 2009's Ghostbusters, the video game.
Was it Atari?
Atari, yeah, I think they published. I could double check, but I'm pretty sure it's them. Yeah, no, I'm gonna freak.
Atari did not publish that game.
I'm gonna freak you out, boy.
Terminal Reality developed it. I know that.
Terminal Reality developed it, and I think was it their one and only project on the PS3?
It was. I don't think they did much.
I'm sure it was Atari. Yeah, Atari.
What?
Yeah, publishers were Atari, Sony Computer Entertainment. Europe presents a not at all production.
No, it because Atari went under.
Amen.
So it was published over here by Sony on the PS3.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, Sony Computer Entertainment Europe.
Yeah,
the PAL version.
But then they did manage to publish it under the. No, it wasn't Atari.
Yeah, it's Atari.
But then there was something happened with the something happened with one of the publishers, which meant that Sony had to do it over here.
Mm-hmm.
For some reason, I don't know what it was.
But on the Infernal Engine, there were versions for PS2, Nintendo DS, and the Wii that were and PSP that were more cartoony and a little more by the numbers, action adventure kind of stories. But
they were based on the visuals of the Real Ghostbusters. I was toying with picking up the PSP version today it's like $6.50 on the PSN store. But I don't know. I think you can have a better experience with the PS3 version, really. Oh no, just to see what
fair enough, just test it.
But I think I'll probably try and track down the Wii version.
Well, the PS3 and Xbox 360 game is effectively, it's called Ghostbusters the video game. It may as well be called Ghostbusters 3.
Yeah.
It's set a couple of years after Ghostbusters 2. It's where the team, once again, like they do in the first movie with Winston, they just need an extra pair of hands, but specifically someone to test the new equipment. And you play that character. He's only ever referred to as Rookie. He's only seen a few times properly, so you can kind of imagine it's yourself. But there's a few times you see his face.
Speak.
His motion and reference and appearance is based on one of the guys working on the game, because they decided out of everyone on the crew, he's the most who just looked like a normal guy. Like he just looked like a normal.
Yeah, he's absolutely not.
He never gets a line.
In any way.
If I recall, he goes to speak in the last cinematic, and that's when the credits cut in.
Brilliant.
So it's sort of like, or he does speak at the very end. I can't remember, but he's just called Rookie. You play Rookie, and the story involves a exhibit on Gozer the Gozerian.
Yep.
And his worshippers and followers, and basically it's a pseudo sequel to the first movie that explains how the second movie happened, and it's pretty damn good. The original cast return. If I remember correctly, the script isn't... Oh, no, yeah, it is! I thought the script wasn't written by them, but it was edited by them. But no, according to this, Dan Aykroyd and Harold Ramis wrote the dialogue. I guess it would have been the dialogue.
Yeah, they worked with them, and I think they script doctored it quite heavily.
Yeah, because the game purposely takes you through a few set pieces that are reminiscent of the films to obviously give you the kick of being in the movies.
I'm
especially the Stay Puft bit, which is what I was nodding at earlier on.
Yeah,
like the bit where you are on top of the building as Stay Puft crawls towards you, and it gets so close.
It gets very close.
It gets so close. And you start to the point where you start to think, have I been doing this wrong?
It's a good
game. Am I doing this wrong? Is there something I'm doing wrong? Am I about to die because I've got this wrong? But no, you're meant to get that close to it. You revisit the Sedgwick. I can't remember if you don't capture Slimer in the surgery.
Yeah, you do.
Oh, you do. Yeah, in the dining room.
He escapes from the ecto. He escapes from the firehouse, and you track him back to the Sedgwick.
And while you're there, you deal
in the ballroom.
And while you're there, you deal with something much bigger and scarier.
Yeah.
As the corridors slowly turn into like an underwater-esque environment.
Yeah, there's some really cool stuff in that game. So I mean, I've not finished it. I've only played it recently, so we could talk about it on this podcast. But
yeah, I don't want to go too much further into the story. But like, you get like William Atherton reprising the role of Peck, Max von Sydow as Vigo, who is just sat in the firehouse amongst a bunch of stuff, and you can interact with him. Which is quite nice.
Yeah.
Annie Potts is Janine, isn't she?
Yeah.
I believe.
Everyone
who's been in it returns to play the roles they played.
If the character is in the game, they return to voice that character.
Here's an interesting one. Similarly, the team was interested in getting Rick Moranis to reprise his role as Lois Tully, but he'd been retired from acting since 1994, only appearing in small voice acting roles for animated films between 2003 and 2007. While lacking involvement from both actors and lacking direct character roles, the characters of Dana and Louie are both mentioned in the game. Yeah, there's allusions to Dana and Peter having... I think they're on a break? Or no, they've broken up.
Because Peter is hitting hard on the Alyssa Milano character the whole game.
But let's be perfectly honest. He would do it. If they'd just broken up... if they'd broken up the day before, he'd still be doing that. Because he's a creepy bastard. Yeah. But the game is a lot of fun. And I will say this. For those of you who are sad that the new film isn't a sequel to number 2, with the original characters... I mean, where have you been? One of the cast members has died. But also, if you want it, go to YouTube, watch the cutscenes. There is at least 4 or 5 versions of the game's cutscenes and pivotal bits of action edited together into a 2 to 3 hour movie. So go give it a watch. You won't be disappointed. Everybody's on board. Bill Murray apparently was a bit flippant about it. But the more you get into the game, the more he's clearly going like, okay, this is fun. And he's having a laugh doing it.
Yeah, like, some of his dialogue's pretty great.
And you get to spend a lot of time with all of them individually at different parts of the story as well.
Yeah.
So there's entire bits where you're just hanging with Egon. And it's just like, this is so cool!
It's just like, just being able to wander around the firehouse.
Yes.
And as you pick up, like, haunted artifacts from around the different levels, they start to populate the firehouse, which is quite good.
Yes. So nice. I'm so glad you got far enough to notice that stuff. Really cool.
It just looks...
It's
right.
pretty.
It looks spot on. I like walking around with the pro, and
it's set in 1991.
Yeah,
and it feels like you're in 1991.
And they do expand the technology, like because they give you like new weapons, and you have a new slime. You have the slime blower, and you have the proton pack, and they also like you have variations of the proto pack, which give you different weapons. But then it doesn't feel like a shooter because so much of it is based around wrangling the ghosts with your proton wands, your neutrona wands, and your proton beams, and getting him in that trap and wrangling him in the trap. And there's a lot of, as if there's a real weight to the sort of ghost fighting. So they get the feel of that really spot on.
There's a lot of close calls too.
Yeah.
You can die in this game.
Oh yeah, and I have several times.
And the lifeline stuff is very nicely done. They talk about monitoring your heart rate and stuff like in the dialogue, but what they really mean is there are 2 little lights on the back of your pack that you, the viewer, can see. Which
there's no hood.
Which are obviously they don't call it this in the game, but it's your health.
Yeah.
And the other one is the pressure in the tank.
It's all
because basically, like in the films, they mentioned the films, you got to vent your proton pack every now and again because otherwise it will overheat, explode, and kill you.
Especially if you switch it over to the experimental like shotgun or stasis settings, and which give it everything a different feel, and you can use the slime to sort of manipulate your environment. You can pick up stuff and throw it around. It's a lot of fun, and I'm enjoying it, and it's worth checking out. And
the gadget thing obviously is a big highlight in that. And it's clearly carried on into the project we will talk about next. But before we move on to the new film...
And we will.
Which we will.
We've gone on very long, haven't we?
We have, but these films are good enough for it. And there's still stuff we've not brought up as well.
Yeah.
But before we carry on, because we will talk spoilers on the new movie. If you don't want it spoiled, then don't stick around when we get to that. But first...
breakthrough hour mark on this.
I did. I think we might do.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I'm going to have to render this one in a slightly lower quality.
Yeah, wow.
But we asked you guys if there's any Ghostbusters stuff you want to ask on the old Twitter. And remember, if you ever want to get in touch, you can bigdowncontact@gmail.com. I put out the question earlier on Twitter. Got any questions? Got any Ghostbusters questions for us? And the first response I got was from someone called Michael Thompson saying, yes, why is it shit? Wow. I don't know if they've seen the new movie or not, but Christ, how direct.
Let's just ignore him.
The internet, ladies and gentlemen.
The internet.
Matt Bob Ross says, why do you think the trailers were seen as negative portrayal of the film? Did they miss anything? This is talk about the current film. I think the trailers are just bad trailers.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff in it is out of context. It mismarkets the film. It just Paul Feig films just don't work as trailers a lot of the times. I didn't watch Bridesmaids for years because I didn't like the trailers, but then when I actually watched it, I really enjoyed it. It's not the movie trailers make it out to be, and I think Ghostbusters have the same problems. Like,
just
some of that
just
stuff.
Choices. All the stuff with Leslie Jones they picked was basically the few moments where her character Patty shouts.
It's not really what she is in the movie.
Hey, sweaty freaks! I'm gonna save you from this ghost. In the trailer, you're like, that's obnoxious. You watch the film, you go, yeah, she's just experienced something really freaking scary like a minute before. She's geared up. She wants to just like get in there before she pisses herself.
Yeah, I think it's just the trailers miss out context.
Yes.
And which is a problem that all trailers have, but with comedies particularly, without context, it's difficult to get a sense of what those moments actually mean. So they're just bad trailers. They're just poorly made trailers.
I mean, whoever decided to do the whole ding 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 30 years ago thing for the first trailer needs to be fired.
Yeah, also that first trailer linking the film as a sequel to the originals rather than a reboot is also a bad thing. So.
Yeah, it's dumb.
Yeah.
If you could pick any 4 actors for the Ghostbusters team, who would you choose?
Harold Ramis, Bill Murray,
Dan
Aykroyd,
hang on. Then they put, just to clarify, I meant actors/actresses. Don't worry, it's fine.
Yeah,
it's cool.
It's fine.
Actors covers both bases. You can use the terms actors or actresses if you want, but we know what you mean. It's fine. It's cool.
I think any.
I think it depends on the context of why you would cast them. Okay, let's go to the hypothetical. One version of Ghostbusters 3 that did the rounds for ages was the old team, or a member of the old team, training up a new team to take over the New York branch. So say that was your film, and you had to cast it any point within the last sort of 10 years, I'll say. So you could have, like, basically, if you wanted to go with comedy actors, you've got 10 years worth to play with. If you wanted to go for drama actors, like... Is it like let's chuck a few names there? I don't think we could come up with a definitive team. I think we'd have to have known this question beforehand to come up with a definitive list. But yeah, I mean Emma Stone was doing the rounds a lot to the point where I think she was asked about being in the new one, and because of the state of the production at the time, she was asked. She was like, I think it was because it was going through rewrite. She was like, I'm not interested. Emma Stone wouldn't be a bad addition.
Yeah, I could see Emma Stone. Paul Rudd.
I'd put Emma Stone. Paul Rudd's a good one. I'd put Emma Stone in it if she was playing the role of not scientist. If she was playing the role of somebody who kind of either applies for it or something. It'd be interesting to see her just take it on as someone who wants a challenge.
I want it to be a more diverse team, and I definitely want a woman on there. At least one woman.
Yeah. I think Dan Aykroyd's like the most latest version of the script he wrote for a threequel was 2 male, 2 female team.
Yeah, I think I don't think you have to hit a certain quota, but I think just
that sounds with the characters he wrote in because he in his words it was like it was a boys' club in terms of the cast. It would have been nice to just mix it up.
The thing is, it's difficult to cast a fantasy Ghostbusters when you don't know who the characters are.
Yeah.
But I don't want to recast the original 4.
Someone like Paul Rudd would fit into that kind of world.
Yeah,
I think in a world pre Ant-Man, he would have worked really well. The problem is because Ant-Man,
I'd put Michael Pena in there.
Yeah.
But not as the Ant-Man character, because then you look at how he
is. No. But like the way he can handle that genre.
Well, look at how he is in Ant-Man, and then look at how he is in The Martian.
Yes.
And how worlds apart he is, and think that anywhere on that scale he could pitch a character who was a Ghostbuster.
Yeah.
Michael Pena.
Pena would be a really good show. Let's put Ernie Hudson in there. He's barely aged.
Ernie Hudson is still young, so why not? I think of great actresses I could put in it. Jessica Chastain.
Chastain would be good, actually.
Yeah, she's great in everything.
The problem is, like, if we were say if you like, you got to cast a comedian or like SNL person or whatever. Like, I'm not really big on SNL ever. Like, I've seen some of the classic stuff from the 70s and 80s, like, around the time.
Modern SNL isn't good, man.
Modern SNL isn't good, except there is one standout performer, and she's in the new movie, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
I mean, even Leslie Jones is, like, a writer on SNL and is in it occasionally. So it's, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They've kind of covered the bases.
I actually think the new movie's really good casting for the characters that they have in the movie.
They've batted around Seth Rogen for years.
Yeah,
that never would have worked for me.
I like Seth Rogen, but he's too Yeah, he would just be
caught a ghost,
which is fine in the right movie, but I don't think for a Ghostbusters movie,
it'd be distracting.
Yeah,
it'd be distracting. Plus, like films like This Is the End and stuff, you get that glimpse of like fantastical scenarios, and I think he's still kind of the same guy, and you wouldn't really be getting anything new from him.
The rest of that clique as well, I don't think would work. Like Danny McBride or James Franco. I do like James Franco.
I mean,
not as a comedian.
Jay Baruchel, maybe. Thing is, he eternally feels like he's a college student. So if he was like the intern or something, I'd buy it, but I won't want him in the main role.
I don't think he could go.
I mean, I like The Sorcerer's Apprentice. I'm one of a small group who like that movie, but I wouldn't want him in the main role.
I don't think you could go with anyone like Jack Black or Ben Stiller or any of that crowd. No. Certainly not any of the Adam Sandler crowd. Keep them as far away from it as possible.
Yeah, I think if you'd gone early 2000s, you probably could have got away with Jack Black. Like around about the time of Christ, what's...
I mean, he can tone it down. He does tone it down in movies, but when he's doing his whole I'm Jack Black thing, it's just like I don't want to sit down and Ghostbusters movie.
So you're saying Neverending Story 3 Jack Black?
Yeah,
that is a whole different bag of shit.
Who else I'd like to see? Oh man, you know what? Gillian Anderson. Post X-Files Gillian Anderson.
Wow. Now you've said that.
As like, because look at her in like the more comic episodes of the X-Files. She's great at comedy.
She would be good.
And that Scully character just a variation on that theme would be quite good.
If he wasn't a little bit insane nowadays, and this might just be because I adore Buffy, but Nick Brendan. Like if you go back, so if you go back, say if we're casting this again like 10 years ago, for example, I think like that would have been Buffy would have stopped a couple of years earlier. Xander is again a very relatable everyman.
I think the Buffy ensemble owes a lot to Ghostbusters.
Yeah. Oh god, now you've said it.
Because it's just
now you've said it.
I think any genre ensemble piece owes a lot to Ghostbusters. Well,
there are Movie Bob sums it up in his Really That Good series, where he says like the problem and the winning thing of the Ghostbusters characters is that the character stereotypes that may have existed before them have been eclipsed by them.
Yeah. Like,
so you now think of, like, you say, so I want a professor character who's, you know, sort of a bit very dry and stuff, and like, you know, an Egon Spengler type is now what people say.
Yeah.
And you know, I mean, I want the one that sort of the member of the team who's a bit of an anti-authority, a bit of a joke, you know, like a Bill Murray type, like
Oliver
a Peter
Platt.
Venkman. Oh, okay.
Mid-2000s Oliver Platt.
No, you said that.
Like Bicentennial Man Oliver
Christ. You know, after Force Awakens, John Boyega.
Oh, John Boyega as a young Ghostbuster. Oh, that'd be so good.
Like, let's take that. Didn't work for everybody. Like, you got a boyfriend, you got a cute boyfriend sort of stuff. Put that in a Ghostbusters movie.
But again, like Michael Penny, you picture him somewhere between his high adventure Finn in Force Awakens and his character in Attack the Block. You pitch him anywhere on that line. You've got you know he can go either there or there, or anywhere in between.
You know his production company's making Pacific Rim 2 right now.
Brilliant.
And he may or may not be playing a character related to Idris Elba's
I think
character.
he's in it.
He's in it too, but like it's a production company he started, are the ones who've got the ball rolling. Brilliant. And I think Guillermo might be coming back to direct it, but it's in early stages of negotiation.
Yeah, I mean Guillermo projects always fall through, so whatever. But...
Which is a shame because that first film's so good. Right, ladies and gentlemen. No, let's stop there because we'll bust our brain holes.
I'll come back to this because I want to think of more actresses I can put in it, but I'm having real trouble thinking of actresses. I'm like, I failed as a person because I can't think of enough good actresses I want to put in it. Maybe that's a symptom of the industry. I think it's a symptom of the industry. We'll see.
And on that note, ladies and gentlemen,
yes,
spoiler wall. If you haven't seen the new Ghostbusters movie and don't want things spoiled,
stop
away now.
Listening now if you don't want to be spoiled for the new Ghostbusters. Stop.
You've been warned.
It's not a joke. We're not bluffing. If you don't want to know what happens in the new Ghostbusters, stop listening.
We'll see you next week. For the rest of you, you're either people who've seen it, or people who aren't going to see it and don't care and are just curious to hear about it.
Or people who are going to see it and don't care because you don't care about spoilers because you're just a sensible person.
In which case, welcome.
Hey!
So we dug this movie.
Yeah, we really dug it.
It's got
problems.
Well, that's the thing. We decided to record this the day after we saw it, as opposed to the review, which was more an initial reaction, because we wanted to see if our attitude would change. If we didn't like it, we might be passionately horrible about it. If we did like it, which we did, we might just be riding on a high of surprise. A day later, you can kind of, level a bit. I'm still pleasantly surprised. and I do want to see it again.
I could watch it again.
I kind of want to see it again in the cinema because I'd like to see it in a bit more of a packed house.
Yeah.
Get
a feel for the crowd.
Yeah, we're recording this on Tuesday the 12th. It doesn't come out in the States until later this week, and in the UK, people obviously aren't going to go and see it as much until later in the week and at the weekend when they're more free to do so. So I might go and see it next week, but I wonder if critical reviews or word of mouth will kill or help this film, because there have been a mixed batch of reviews.
It's really been a mixed bag.
It's been very divisive.
Really ripped into it, but the general
consensus... Richard Roper hated it. He gave it 1 star. He said it's disgusting. He thought Hemsworth was obnoxious. He thought Kate McKinnon was annoying. And the thing is, I'm like, well, we loved both of those performances a lot.
Let's address the obvious
elephant in the room.
No, not the. Well,
let's address the Harold Ramis bust in the room.
No, let's address the Chris Hemsworth thing.
Okay.
And about his character.
Yes.
Chris Hemsworth's character is unbelievably stupid.
Yes.
So stupid and boneheaded and ridiculous. But it works. And you know why it works? Because Chris Hemsworth sells it to you. He sells it to you with a stony face. That mask never once slips. And it is a wonderful, wonderful comic performance from this actor who's made his name doing big action movies where he's got more muscles than God. But he comes along and he does this comic performance of just absurdity with a stone face. And it's brilliant. That's why it works. But you have to meet him halfway as an audience member. If you don't have a taste for that kind of comedy, it's not going to work for you. That's just the rule of films in general. If you don't have that kind of sense of humour, it ain't going to work for you.
Going into this movie based on the trailers, I didn't think I was going to like his character.
I didn't think I was going to like the movie
because the trailers were terribly cut, but there's that bit in the trailer. It's like Kevin, the phone, it's in the fish tank. No, the one on the desk. Oh, right. I was like, what?
But
why would that be like? What?
And it makes no sense out of context because you haven't seen the setup that's in the movie.
Exactly. Well, because in the movie, by this point, you get to know that he's a nice guy, but there is not much light on upstairs.
And also, you know that they're in literally an abandoned upper apartment above a Chinese restaurant, which is just full of stuff.
There's no fish in the fish tank, but there is some crap in there. There's stuff that's been dumped in there. They are making do with the space they have.
Chris, you know a fish tank's a submarine for fish.
That was a line in the movie, and I liked said line. He's the dumb blonde, subverted to be a dude.
Yeah, he's a gender stereotype. He's a gender.
Sometimes he makes jokes that I don't think I've ever seen the dumb blonde stereotype in previous movies even make. They're a bit too stupid.
But they go harder on it, really, don't they? Yeah.
But his poker face sells it. He's and we don't know too much about the character. We know that he's a hide and seek national champion. And in one of the scenes of the movie, he leaves the office early because he's currently in the middle of a hide and seek game.
And also, he's definitely he's some sort of actor or model because he's got headshots at one point.
Yeah, he's acting. He's trying to get into acting.
He's got these headshots. He's like, which one makes me look more like a doctor? And he holds up one playing the saxophone or holding the saxophone. And in the credits, you see more of his headshots, including one with a stethoscope.
Well, so he's
topless in all of these.
Which one do you think works better? The one where I'm playing the saxophone, or the one where I'm listening to the saxophone? And he's literally just holding it up to his ear, like it was a phone. What? But he's a lovely addition, and when he gets compromised later in the movie, he gets possessed and everything. You realise the girls are obviously trying to save the day. But they also want to make sure Kevin's alright, because he didn't deserve any of this. He didn't deserve to get caught up in this.
Because there is also the concern from the trailer that it's just going to be man candy, and there's going to be a whole thing about them wanting to... at least one of them wanting to sleep with them. And, the Kristen Wiig character does really quite fancy him, but it's never really a thing. They don't make a subplot of it.
There's no romantic end where
he shows no romantic interest in anyone or anything the whole movie. He's completely sexless. There's a couple of gags based on how good looking. There's a wonderful moment where they're going to save him towards the end, and he goes,
Melissa McCarthy just chucks out the line.
I suppose we better go and save him. We're not going to get another one that good looking. And it's just, but he's not man candy. He's like the team pet. He's the team dog almost, because he's just so...
He's like good Slimer.
I mean, if they didn't have him working there, I don't know if he'd be able to survive, because he's just so dumb.
Kevin and the Real Ghostbusters.
Yeah, he's Slimer, but he's not Slimer.
Yeah.
Speaking of Slimer, you have a real issue with the Slimer in this movie.
I've not Slimer, Mrs. Slimer. And the thing, I've become a little less annoyed by it as the days gone by, but there is a bit where the Slimer shows up during the big chaos at the end. And it's like he's given his due. It's movie Slimer. It's not cartoon Slimer. He acts a bit cartoony, but he did in the original. He was a little cartoon, like the whole flying down the hallway, eating stuff, like eating hot dogs. He was always a little cartoony. In this movie, he's still a little cartoony, but he's also pretty scary. He like gets shouted at by them, looks genuinely offended and annoyed by them, then phases his way into Ecto 1 and tries to run them over. And I'm like, okay, that makes sense. Malevolent spirit. Like, I'm down with that. But then later on he rocks up joyriding, which is hilarious, with other ghosts just sticking out of the car, like, cheering. That's hilarious. I do like that. But next to him is another Slimer with lipstick and a little female hairdo. And you're like, well, that looks like something that would have been done in Slimer and the Real Ghostbusters, and then they've put it in the film. It just seems weird. Because I don't think of Slimer as a dude. I think of him as sexless, as a genderless. Like, he's just a green blob. It's just a green blob. I think we only say he because he has like a deep voice.
You keep saying
I know. I think it's. Do you know what I think it is?
You keep saying.
I think it's because in the run up to the film, all those TV spots that were making the film look worse and worse. Several of them end with the shot of those two in the vehicle, and I was like, "What the hell is that thing? What is that?" And that seems to be the one hold-up I still have, even after watching the movie. I'm just like, "That girl Slimer is gross. What is this thing?"
But then I just don't understand the issue you have with that. I don't get it.
Well, exactly, because the thing is,
I do not get it.
The thing is, I don't get it either. I honestly don't get it.
Just revulsion for this.
I honestly don't get it.
I mean, it is a bit of a lazy visual cue to just put like a wig and a bow on top of Slimer and have it be a female Slimer. But
I'd rather have seen. I'd rather have just seen a different design of Ghost.
Yeah, maybe
it's like another funky design of Ghost,
but
one that wasn't the same CG model with a few alterations, or even just a bunch of Slimer kids in the back seat of the car, like they're all going off on holiday. Like, because at least then I'd be like, oh my god, it's a family of them. There's more than one. What is this? That's freaky. But I will get over it because I'm already questioning why I have a problem with it. But ghost designs in the movie it's weird. I think that is one thing the movie does let itself down on a bit. They could have gone harder on them. They could have gone harder, or they could have at least had a nod to... Because again, in the original, the human-looking ghosts are fewer and far between. Yeah. There are more monstrous ones. Even the first ghost we meet is human-looking, the librarian, so she turns around and goes really creepy. She goes, "Rah!" and everything, which you get a nice, good look at in the game as well. She looks proper freaky. So we go like, oh, right, so they can kind of change shape, they look different. Even in this movie, the first ghost we meet goes all skeletal and scary-looking. Mm-hmm. So when they face a dragon as their first ghost, you think somebody would at least be like, oh, just one of the three that was in the early scenes go like, that's a bit bigger than the last one, or something, because it is vastly different from the ghosts we see up to that point. It's really weird. Like when you see Slimer in Ghostbusters, the original, you go just like, oh right, that's just a ghost, because the previous one you saw was a lady who stretched into a big scary spiky haired electricity thing, so you just buy that they all look weird.
I think it's just it's not the concern that they have at that moment because they're already dragons.
To be fair, they did blast the dragon out of a mannequin.
Yeah,
that was creepy. Happens. That was bloody creepy. Mannequin walking around, scuttling about.
Not as creepy as the dead-eyed plastic Ozzy Osbourne cameo.
Not as creepy as the fact they didn't think in the edit it might be sensible to take out the reference to Sharon. Oh.
But also not as weird as the fact that he's playing this sort of mid-sized theatre in the middle of the day in New York. Because, like, I know Ozzy's...
He's got a divorce to pay for. Come on.
Well, not according to that, because apparently he's still with her.
Sharon!
I think I'm having a flashback! Let's talk about the cameos.
Must we? Go on. Which ones work really well? Annie Potts. I think that's the best cameo.
Has a great cameo as a hotel concierge.
I think that's the best because I think there will be some people who don't even realise who it is.
Yeah.
Which I think a good cameo is one where it doesn't make you go, too much.
But she does get to say, what do you want?
Yes, which is great. And the more annoyed she gets, the more New York she gets.
Yeah.
Ernie Hudson shows up at the end as Leslie Jones as Patty's uncle.
Who she borrows what becomes Ecto-1 off and then gets trashed at the end of the movie.
Yeah, well, gets sucked into another dimension.
So he shows up with an identical car going, "Where's my car? I got 4 funerals this week."
And one hearse. Like, what am I going to do? That's nice, and he ends the movie.
And he looks incredible. He looks incredible.
Black don't crack.
I don't get it. He's immortal. He's the Highlander.
Sigourney Weaver rocks up in those little scenes in the credits.
Yeah, she
rocks as Kate McKinnon's character's like mentor,
who seems equally sort of weird and Cluckulander and with an eccentric dress sense and sort of not quite of this planet. I think Sigourney Weaver just rocked up to set in her own clothes and just went, "I want to do this."
We're gonna give you some funny glasses and just be quirky. Okay, and go.
Hey.
So complaint a lot of the reviews have is they said like they abandon their own physics and their own logic because they go after the dragon, which is called Mayhem apparently, according to the toys.
Cool.
They go after Mayhem and they get it into a trap. And in the movie, it's like the first version of the trap. It's a big cylinder, and they get it into the trap. And then later on, they've got it, and they're like, right, we've got it. We need to be careful. We're not sure how we're meant to contain it yet. We need to build a containment unit.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the movie, in the credit scenes with Sigourney Weaver, that's what's happened. They built like the first containment unit. People were always going like, oh, hang on, so they catch ghosts and everything. So why are the weapons destroying ghosts in the finale? Why are they blasting them and shooting them? Well, two things. One, they've not built the containment unit yet.
Yeah,
they're still figuring it out. Obviously, this energy can destroy ghosts. Like, they'd rather not. They'd rather keep them for study. But it can destroy them. Because originally they want to keep one, so they've got proof that what they're doing is legitimate.
They never really address it, but they do mention...
But this is the second theory, because you pointed this out today, and it made so much sense.
They never address it in the movie, but I had no problem putting this together in my head. It never bothered me at all, because they make it clear that the machines that the villain is building are making it easier for the ghosts to corporeate. That's the word. To become, to pull enough energy together to have a presence. Well,
in the rock concert, they sort of imply that the reason it's attracted to the stage is because there's more there's ions in the air, like the electric energy is sort of is tastier to the entity.
It would then follow that the weapons that they're using to wrangle them would weaken them. So if you hit them with enough of it, surely it would weaken them to the point of disintegration where they can't hold themselves together anymore.
Yeah, and they don't kill them in one shot with the proton packs. In the final fight, there are different devices that they use.
There's different devices.
There's like a gauntlet that basically punches them.
There's
with
a
energy.
shredder, which is quite nice. Which turns them into goo.
This stuff reminds me of the video game.
Yeah,
and of Extreme
Having played the video
Ghostbusters.
game,
The idea of all
actually,
these new gadgets,
new ways of tackling ghosts, and there's some wonderful stuff. Like, they're always consistent in the original films about the proton packs being like lassos. You're wrangling the ghosts, try and capture them, but they never really explore it. But it's consistent. Yeah. But they really do explore it in the new one, because that big action set piece towards the end has lots of just whacking ghosts around and using them to whack into each other and pulling one in half with it, and then Melissa McCarthy has a fist thing, which is just like a fist shotgun thing.
Kinnon's got these weird things that's like pistols meets a taser.
Yeah, and then just sort of like whips them around with them, and there's some really good. There's some interesting. I like the action and the ghost wrangling in it. I think it's
very well shot, very well incorporated into the movie.
They never bothered me at all that the tearing the ghosts apart and the weakening them without trapping them, but it's just not a
By the end of the movie, they're figuring out how to do that.
Yeah.
So I buy that. I imagine in the next one, they're probably going to be more about capturing and containing.
Yeah, it never bothered me.
If there is a next one. So
it never bothered me that the weapons were damaging the could the point where they could no longer
fight. Hell was open. The ghosts were about to tear everyone apart. And in the original movie, they kill the ghost that is a dangerous threat. They destroy Gozer.
I imagine
they cross the streams and split his atoms into a million
And I like that they
pieces.
didn't cross the streams in this. There's no crossing the stream stuff in this.
Yeah.
There are callbacks and consistencies with this and the original, but no more than there are with The Force Awakens in Episode 4. Yeah. And a lot of the people who liked The Force Awakens liked it because it rhymed so much with Episode 4. So for the Ghostbusters remake,
stanzas, they rhyme.
Like poetry, rhyme. So for Ghostbusters new flavour to rhyme with original classic Ghostbusters. It's a remake. Of course, it's going to.
Yeah,
that's fine. I don't have a problem with the movie referencing the original because it's a remake of the same concept. So that's fine. I'm doing this weird, like, sort of
hand gesture right now. Yeah.
That I wish you could see because it's quite pleasing.
I wish people could see this movie because it's quite pleasing.
Yes, this movie is
because
quite
there will be
pleasing.
people who go like, "Well, don't touch the original. Why have you made a new one?" It's like, look, I think we all get that guttural reaction the moment we find out this news. The moment we see, a film you love from your childhood is being thingy. For a split second, you go, "Why?" But here's the thing: that movie still exists.
I'll be the first to argue that remakes are almost always pointless.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Christ.
But my favourite movie of all time is a remake. So
Annie. I'm kidding.
I love Annie. No, my favourite movie of all time is John Carpenter's The Thing,
which is a remake of The Thing from Another World.
Which
in turn got remade and prequelized.
The Thing 2011 is not a remake of The Thing.
It's a prequel.
Why do people keep calling it a remake?
Because it was a remake in production and then it was tweaked along the way to make it a prequel. That's why.
Well, it was tweaked pretty bloody well because none of it, the finished product, feels like a remake.
Well, there are beats, and the fact that if you watch them, I did it once. I watched them back to back, the prequel and then the original remake, and it felt like I was watching a movie and then a better version of the same movie.
Yeah, because
so it's a bit. I can see why people still think it's a prequel, as a remake.
A lot of the same stuff happens in The Thing 2011 that happens in The Thing 86 because it's the same monster.
Yeah.
In a very similar situation.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. That's why some people think of it as a remake because it's almost the same. It's like Ghostbusters 2 in reverse.
It's not a remake. It's a prequel. Stop calling it a remake.
All right, reboot.
I'm gonna hit you
so hard. Let's talk about the other cameos before we forget.
Yeah.
Ernie Hudson really nice. Annie Potts really nice. It's going to be really nice. Dan Aykroyd ruined in America because it's in like 3 of the TV spots.
Oh
yeah. He's a cab driver who basically like Kristen Wiig. What's the character called? Erin. Erin Gilbert. Erin's trying to get back to the basically find the other team, like, because shit's going down.
Yeah, they get split up, and then it also has to go down. She has to go.
Well, she needs to go back and get her equipment, and then go find the team. So she's asking for a ride to Chinatown, and he's basically like, "Nah, it's too busy down there. I'm not going that way tonight." And she's like, "What the hell?" It's
like a block further than I want to go.
Yeah, and he's basically like, it's not because of the ghosts, because he immediately sort of says, "No, the town's full of like."
It's class 5 fauna vapors.
Exactly, he does some Ghostbusters jargon, which is obviously meant to be a nod to the fact that this is the guy who was Ray Stantz. Yeah. But at the same time, it's sort of like implying this cab driver knows his shit,
and also
is why he's giving no fucks about what's going on around him.
And also has the line, "I'm afraid no ghost."
And then he just drives off, and it's like, fair enough, yeah, okay. It's the only cameo that is a bit like, hang on, we stopped to make this happen. But there is one other cameo.
Is it the only cameo where it feels like we stopped to make this happen?
Because there is one other cameo that makes you realise how subtle that one actually was. Because there is a TV skeptic played by Bill Murray, who put it this way, the only reason Bill Murray cameoed, unquote, in this movie is because they said, "Look, we'll give you a minimum of 2 days' work and we'll pay you this wage for it." And he went, "Fine, I'll do it."
Yeah, I'll do it. I've got to,
And
I've got bills to pay.
The reason why Bill appears reluctant in all the interviews and everything, it's so visibly reluctant in all of the interviews that have been going on in promotion for the new movie, because it's very clear the studio have made sure that the original cast have done a lot of promotion as a sign of good faith and goodwill. Because it is the moment it was like, "Oh, we've got the originals and they're going to talk with the new ones and all this." I was like, "Wow, you guys have got bomb on your hands.
Yeah.
You've got a piece of shit on your hands, and you are doing everything you can to get goodwill drummed up for your movie." I think Bill Murray genuinely does not like the new movie. I think he thinks it's shit or pointless. Oh no, but I mean, like, you can see it even when he's obviously meant to be plugging it, because even in the Jimmy Kimmel interview, when they talk about like the new film, excited for it, he goes on about he's excited for people to see the 4 leads because they are brilliant together and they're so talented.
They are.
And I think that's because what he chose to do was not lie. He chose to just tell the truth about something that he is happy with, because He has a scene on the TV, which we thought would be the extent of the cameo, which would make sense. It was just this bizarre little cameo.
And to be fair, you could cut the next bit of the cameo out and the film would be no different.
Yeah, because he basically shows up after they've caught Mayhem at the rock concert.
Yeah.
And his character's called Martin Heiss. He shows up and basically he's apparently slagged them off before, probably their book or whatever, and he's like, I'm not, so you've got to go, so I want to see it. And they're like, well, no, because that's dangerous. It's inside this. I think he even calls it a thermos. So it's inside this thing. Like we're not gonna let it out. Kristen Wiig gets really pissed off, and she's like, right, I'm gonna show him. She opens up the trap, and Mayhem. I think that was the moment I decided she's my least favorite of the four, because Mayhem bursts out, pushes him out of the window to his death, and flies away. I was like, wow, she just killed a man to prove a point.
Yeah,
that's kind of brutal. She didn't intend for that to happen, but still. So Bill Murray's killed off, and then as the police and ambulance crew are dealing with the scene, some agents come up to them and say, like, right, we need to take to the mayor's office. Like you say, you could cut that entire scene and just have them in the thingy celebrating, knock at the door, agents.
Yeah,
the mayor would like a word.
You could cut that,
and it would work better.
And since they face no consequences for Heiss's death because the government are already aware of what they're doing.
Yes.
It serves no purpose which adds other than more Bill Murray in the film.
That's it. It adds further sort of credence to the thing that Bill Murray basically refused to do a cameo unless he did enough work to warrant a bigger paycheck, basically.
And really, that's the last moment in the film that I feel sags a bit, because I do feel it sags a bit at the beginning and some of the jokes don't land.
Some jokes don't land tonally, it's a bit weird.
That's the last moment that I'd had a problem with. After that, it was plain sailing.
After that, it becomes a really fun blockbuster.
I think
keeps hitting marks.
I knew I liked it before that point. Like, I was already having fun with it. I was just like, well, I have some issues with it. But then I'd have no issues after that.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is, before that, really? you get a slow start in terms of things being a bit choppy, gags being misjudged, edits being misjudged.
Yeah.
But by the time Leslie Jones enters the picture, by the time Patty arrives, and by the time she approaches them and they start to interact, you go, I like watching what these characters are doing together. I like the way they're interacting. I want to see where this goes. And I think the first scene that really makes you go, okay, I'm having fun, is when they go down to confront the ghost in the subway. I think that's the bit where you go, here's where, thinking about it over the last day, here's where everything goes in the right direction and starts to, like, the train picks up speed. It unfortunately stops a little too long at Bill Murray Station, but once it's done there, it carries on, on its journey.
Despite the best efforts, they can't inflict overkill Murray on it. They try, but they don't quite manage. Just the glee of everything. Like the Foleys are clearly having a whale of a time, particularly Kate McKinnon.
Yes.
Chris Evans
who's playing scary eccentric.
There's only one really misjudged performance in it, and that's Cecily Strong.
Yeah, as the mayor's aide.
And she is terrible.
Yeah,
she feels like she's walked up. Like you said, she feels like she's walked in from a comedy sketch show.
Well, she's an SNL cast member, and it's unlike her two peers of the current cast who are there, Leslie Jones and Kate McKinnon. She feels like she's doing a sketch based on Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
Which is what the trailers made the movie look like it was going to be.
Yeah, kind of. There's a bit of there's more. In a way, the characters are a bit more well fleshed out than they are in the original movie, because you have the whole backstory.
We find out Erin's drive. Like, that was... I loved that bit. We basically find out the only reason she became interested in this stuff, similar to Egon in the Real Ghostbusters, is because she has a haunting as a child. The creepy old lady, like the nasty old woman in her street, died, and the night that they took the body away, the old woman was stood at the end of her bed, and was there every night for a year,
and no one believed her.
And
she bullied at school because of it. Her parents didn't believe her.
Never slept properly the whole time, and then one day she just went away. But by that point, it was too late. She was Ghost Girl.
Yeah.
Everyone would mock her for stories about a ghost.
And then she meets Abby in high school.
Who's the
McCarthy character, and she's clearly an outcast as well. So So they're a bit, and then they write their book, and then they have a falling out, and Erin wants to be taken more seriously.
Become a proper a tutor in a college and university and everything.
The torpedoing of that by the first. Them finding a ghost at the start of the movie, which then torpedoes her academic career, is what leads to the formation of the Ghostbusters. So it's a bit more of a human drive to it, and it's
it continues, because when Leslie Jones arrives, when Patty Tolan arrives, she's like you said, you summed it up beautifully. You said the outcast thing is summed up from the fact she's a really happy, chipper, nice person in a job where people just walk right past you and don't give a damn.
She's sitting in a
and yet she still makes the effort to sort of
yeah.
like smile, say hello, indulges the weirdo that approaches the booth.
You later find out he's the main villain. Sometimes there's some weird stuff to him. He's like, okay, you're crazy. But she's still really nice to everyone, and she's trying to engage with people, and then she meets these people she can engage with, and she wants to, like she says, "I've come to join the club," and it's like, it's not a club.
It's not a club. And I think for a little bit, I think up until their first catch, she doesn't really realise this is how we're hoping to make a living now.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't just a get together. We don't do this for fun. But at the same time, like, again, the marketing and the interviews and the press let this down by saying like they hire her for a street smart, and I think the problem is the stigma that comes with that term. Because let's face it, when people normally say, "Oh, the character's street smart," what they mean is they're urban.
Yeah,
that's basically what. Do you know what I mean?
They're black.
That's essentially
people use that. They do black things and have black interests,
and it's so offensive because what they actually mean is the character is a history buff who knows New York, not like, "Oh, I can get you from here to here." Because, as a lot of people rightfully pointed out during the trailers after that part, Google Maps exists now.
Yeah.
Like, or, just having a map exists. All these characters who have lived in New York already know their way around. In the film, it's so clear. What they're on about is that, like, she knows where everything was, what everything became. Like, I mean, when she first sees, the reason she holds their attention is because when she describes the ghost she sees in the subway, she says like he was sort of electric, he was in like a prisoner's uniform, which is weird because that site used to be where the first like penitentiary was in New York. That's where they first held like the violent criminals and they execute people there. It's where the first electric chair was ever set up in Manhattan and stuff. So they're immediately like, wow, she rationally described what she saw and explained where it came from.
Yeah, she's not flapped by it, but then she's not.
She knows her stuff.
She is different from the rest of them. She's not like a kind of geeky nerdy type. She's a bit more. She is a bit more of an everyman character.
Yeah.
And she's not. But she's a loner, and the theme of it, and it comes full circle in the end when Holtzman finally drops the facade of being a bit crazy and wacko and finally has that moment where she's like...
In a way, where she does a toast to them after...
And it's clearly such a struggle for her to drop the facade and be vulnerable for a moment.
Because at first you think, is she doing a bit? And then she keeps talking in that tone, that really kind of awkward tone. You go, oh god, no, this is her actually opening up for a moment.
Yeah.
Because her character is just like this wacky ball of energy and it's weirdly touching by that point because you've grown to like her. So you're like, oh, that's really sweet. So like, that took a lot for her to actually say.
When you come to the Ghostbusters in the original movie, they kind of like Venkman and Egon and Stantz are already friends.
Yeah, and they all trained at the same place. Yeah. They all went they all aimed for roughly the same career,
and they're already
a couple of them are still full of the zest for exploration. Yeah. One of them's kind of like,
But they are comfortable with each other, and the wonderful thing about Winston is they just accept him without question.
Yeah.
There's no like tension. It's just like, oh, cool. You're
the new guy. You're hired. In fact, that's the thing, isn't it? Who's this guy? He's here about the job. You're hired. Okay. And they bring him in, which could be seen as laziness, but like later on you have the little scenes with Ray and Winston and Episode 1 where they talk about Judgment Day and everything, and you see that they're setting up that, these guys start to get along, like you would with any colleague you meet at a new job.
And
you give them a chance, and you try and get on and everything, you're pleasant. To the point where at the end, Winston is willing to possibly sacrifice himself alongside the other three to save the city.
There's never any question of him not being accepted. There's never any question of them having any problem with him not being a scientist and just being a blue collar Joe. It's like he's one of the team. He's one of the guys.
They're outcast in the original movie simply in the sense that they see stuff that the authority refuses to look at.
Mm.
That theme is present in this film, but this film isn't about a team of friends trying something new. It's about a team of people becoming a family.
Yeah.
And it's to the point where that's sort of said by Holtzman during a thing. Like, she finally feels like she's part of a family. And it's really sweet. You go, oh, dang it. Rowan, generic MCU-esque villain. Would be my way to describe him. He's a plot function. The actor plays him very capably.
Yeah.
But he's not given... And this is something that the Marvel films, MCU, does really badly. He's not given a scene or two where we kind of get to know him or enjoy how evil he is.
No.
Do you know what I mean? Like in the Marvel movies, like, for example, Thor Dark World, Malekith. Great actor playing him.
Just
we're given the basic
completely squandered.
We're given the basic motivation of the character, there is only one slightly interesting scene with him, and that's him fighting. Oh God, what's she called? I've forgotten her name. Is it
Freya.
Freya? Frigga?
It's Frigga, yeah.
Frigga,
yeah.
they're Thor's mum.
Yeah.
But that's only interesting because it's the only time we see him do like hand-to-hand combat. That's why that's interesting. We don't get a scene where he just sort of like he should have. That room should have been held. Like a bunch of his guards should have swarmed in. Suddenly, Jane and Frigga, or Frigga's, sort of. It's like, oh God, she's trapped, and he just walks in calmly because he knows he's on top of it, and just talks, and they just have a chat. They needed something like that to sort of give you a moment of this is who he is. This is what we see the motivation that's driving him because it's there. It's a layer as he goes through his plan.
As stereotypical as it is, we could have done with a bit of villain monologue in Thor: The Dark World,
Yes.
and we do get more of that in this.
In Ghostbusters, yeah, but
even to himself. But he likes to monologue to himself.
But I think that was weird because it didn't come across as crazy person talking quietly to himself. It came across like Saturday morning cartoon.
Yeah, it was a bit too moustache twirly.
Yeah,
but not that it particularly put me off. To be honest, I didn't mind it so much.
I think bizarrely he was his most effective. Like his best performance, Neil Casey, I think, is the actor who plays Rowan. His best sort of villainy bit actually is after Rowan leaves Kevin's body, and he talks to them as an entity and does the logo very briefly. You can tell he's having he's enjoying those lines, and the character is of course enjoying the fact that he's like, "Oh, you're fucked. I've won."
Yeah,
and
he's enjoying his power, which he's never had before.
Yeah,
the whole silent theme of his character, he has been powerless and ignored, which a lot of people are. But it's
nice that the first film features a human villain.
Yeah,
as well. There's sort of like a slight echo of Janosch to him, like not obviously to the same level. You have the ego. There's none of that.
Yeah, but the idea of like someone who feels scorned and ignored wants power to make themselves better than everyone else.
He knows of a way to basically become a god, and he's like, I'm taking it.
Which ironically comes from Erin and Abby's research an original book.
Yeah,
so
they plant the seed.
Yeah,
by accident they completely screw everyone up. So yeah, he's fine. He's not bad, but he's not spectacular. He's fine, and that's fine because it's movie one, and the film doesn't tell it. There's a couple of sequel baity little elements.
There's the post credits teaser,
but it's not Amazing Spider-Man 2. The film doesn't treat itself as part one, but it goes, this is the story of the Ghostbusters. And who knows? Maybe we'll tell another one. That's kind of the way it approaches it. I would love to see these characters again in another story. I genuinely would.
For the same reason that I wanted to see Ghostbusters 2 and it be exactly the same as Ghostbusters 1, because I just like these characters interacting. Yeah. I like the characters.
I think the way to look at this is like the only successful film in that series so far, as of the 12th of July 2016. It's kind of like Star Trek 2009. In the sense that it's like, the structure's there. Roughly the characters are there, although these are definitely different characters from the original team. This is basically just, this is how that story went down in this universe.
Yeah.
This is how this went. These things will always be. But this is just how it was told over here.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And obviously we don't have like sort of Winston from another dimension rocking up and telling them they're doing it right now, I'm going to get back to my dimension. But I could totally see somewhere down the line, like IDW, for example, doing a comic book where there is a dimensional rift or something and the two versions of the story cross over. I could totally see that happening. I'm proud, I'd buy it. It probably wouldn't be great, but I'd buy it.
Yeah.
A day later, I'm not as big on Kristen Wiig and Melissa McCarthy as I was watching the movie. I think
I like that Melissa McCarthy plays it relatively straight.
Yes, I think
for any of the gross out stuff.
I think her performance is spot on.
Yeah,
and I think using Kristen Wiig as kind of our way in for the first act is a smart decision. But she sort of becomes a little dull toward the end. But maybe that's just because I've seen her play roles where she's been able to. She's had more to play with.
What she's doing in this is sort of she's very uptight and very, and she kind of loosens up, but she is still quite reserved.
It'd be nice to see her go a little further. But then again,
I think she plays quite well off Holtzman because Holtzman is so far the other way that she kind of brings
those moments
Erin
show
out
me
of the shell.
The character I think we'd like to see. Maybe that's why I have more of a hold up because it's like that's the character, that's her. I want to see her do that.
Yeah.
And maybe in the second one, if they do it, then maybe she'll have a chance to do a bit more like that. Yeah. But yeah, it's just little moments that shouldn't work. Again,
moments that shouldn't work that don't because they over-egg the pudding.
Yeah, but there are moments that shouldn't work that do because guess what? They're being completely earnest in how they do it.
To sell it.
Because here's the thing, you're going to have the original movie in your mind when you watch it. That can't be helped. If you've ever seen it, if you've ever heard the song, if you've ever seen the cartoon, that will always be in your head when you approach.
I mean, thankfully they only used that atrocious Fall Out Boy version of the song very, very briefly.
In a way where if they'd taken the lyrics off of it, I would have been all for it.
Yeah.
Because it's used at the right moment.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a terrible piece of music. To the point where the Walk the Moon version that we preferred of the Ghostbusters thing
is what plays over the credits.
What plays at the end. That's the triumphant, the better cover. But yeah, so you're gonna have the originals in your head. It's there. But if you are willing to experience a new Ghostbusters story, you're not going to do much worse than going to see this one.
No,
it's not the one you know.
Guys, we're not going to get a Ghostbusters 3.
It's not. Well, we did.
Well,
Ghostbusters the video game.
We're not going to get another Ghostbusters movie with the original cast. Because Hal Ramis is dead. Bill Murray doesn't want to do it. Dan Aykroyd's crazy. And Ernie Hudson's
could probably do it. Ernie Hudson could totally do it.
Ernie Hudson could do it. Ernie Hudson can do it on his own. I see a solo Winston movie. Ghostbusters Cinematic Universe, Winston.
Yeah. Ghostbusters Origins, Winston Zedmore.
Yeah, I'd watch that.
Just call it Zedmore. Just do a dramatic story.
Ernie Hudson looks good enough to play a young version of himself.
Do a dramatic story of Winston looking for a job. Set. Have it as a mid-call. Set during the original movie.
There's a wonderful moment in one of the Real Ghostbusters episodes where he offhandedly mentions that he used to be a fortune teller on Coney Island.
Oh, I love that. So, which implies the only reason he applied for the Ghostbusters job because he just does it. He just applies for whatever as long as he gets paid.
Well, we had a cape with stars on, so.
Oh my god, I love him even more now.
But it's just an offhanded mention. I think that was from the. Even more now. I think that was from the Arsenio Hall voiced version of the character. He only did it for the first little run of it, and then someone else took over.
He's my favourite, and now he's more my favourite.
Yeah, I'm glad I got it.
I'm so glad you dropped that tidbit.
So
I'm guessing there wasn't a steady paycheck in Coney Island fortune teller.
I really enjoy New Ghostbusters. Some of the cameos are a bit. The Bill Murray cameo was a bit too much, and the Harold Ramis bust it's a nice idea.
It's a nice idea, but the frame holds it in frame for just a moment too long, and it's sort of like an 80s Harold Ramis grinning.
Yeah, it's a weird pose.
Like if it was, I was saying before, if it was latter day Harold Ramis with a neutral face like most busts have, I'd be like, oh, that's cool. That was Harold Ramis. Yeah. But I think there will be people who watch it and go, is that Egon?
Yeah.
And it'll confuse a bunch of people. I think they'll see that and think the movie's set in the same universe and stuff. It's weird, tonally, strange.
And they do dedicate the movie to Harold Ramis, which is quite nice.
Yeah, which, I mean, hopefully, maybe he would have been happy with that. Maybe he wouldn't. Maybe he'd have been like, oh, God, you've ruined my original idea.
No, I don't think
maybe he'd been chuffed.
I don't think he would have enjoyed it.
Going forward, I know Ivan Reitman... Here's the thing. Part of my reluctance with this movie, part of my hold-ups with it on the way to its release, was the stories of what went on behind the scenes. We could do an entire episode on that, to be perfectly honest, but it's best summed up by the guys over at Midnight's Edge on YouTube. They covered everything. They recently as last week, did a video that, like a half-hour, 45-minute video that rounds up everything that they learnt about the movie. And its production, trouble production, apparently fallouts on set between some cast members. Apparently Melissa McCarthy and Kristen Wiig just did not get on anymore.
Which doesn't show in the film.
Which doesn't show in the film and hasn't showed in the marketing.
No, I don't think
what has shown in the marketing and the press is that Leslie Jones and Kate McKinnon really get on with each other.
Well, yeah. Well, there's SNL guys. So.
But like to the point where you're like, good God, is this the start of a what's the lady equivalent of a bromance? No, it's a bromance.
Maybe it's a straight romance. We don't know. I don't know the sexual proclivities.
Maybe. Well,
who knows? Let's not speculate in their personal lives.
Just because Kate McKinnon will never be housed.
That's fine by me. I don't claim ownership of anyone.
I love the idea of her. So there we go. I'll take that. Make it less creepy. Nah.
Nope.
Do you know what?
Cut it out.
I'll always have Kylie. So
God.
I mean, I've heard that people will always be attracted to.
Stop digging. Put that shovel down.
But yeah, really was surprised and happy with the movie.
Yeah.
I hope the trouble production stuff, I hope some of it wasn't true. Even if it was, it's fascinating. So even if you like this movie, listen to that Midnight's Edge video.
Yeah.
It's worth looking into because it's fascinating.
Interesting, yeah.
And the thing is, all the behind the scenes stuff basically spelled doom for this project. Yet it turns out that it hasn't screwed it up.
And it could
if you
have
didn't
been a lot
like
better with a little tighter Reddit, but it's still pretty damn good.
Yeah. If you didn't like the movie, watch the Midnight's Edge thing, because you may go, oh, see, that's why I didn't like it. It happened because of this. Or if you're just enjoying slagging it off, then it will give you some extra little vindication.
Yay! Everyone's a winner.
Enjoy your hatred. It's a really unhealthy lifestyle. So
I would like to see, because they mentioned that there's going to be an extended cut available, haven't there?
Yeah, an extra 15 minutes will be in the home video version, and the problem is, I think it will be the one thing we both sort of unanimously like. Yeah, that was the extra improv that Paul Feig was obviously he was too afraid to cut.
Although I kind of.
Or he thought it was too funny, so he was like, "Oh, that'll be fine," but it slows the movie down in a couple of places. Again, mostly in the first act.
I kind of want them to put the dance sequence back in.
Yeah, that was odd. When you see it in the credits, you're like, no, this should have been in the film. Even if it was just like brief. Even if it like starts, we see it, we cut to the activity elsewhere with the parade, with a Stay Puft cameo that, again, in context,
the Stay Puft cameo was really good, yeah.
It worked really well.
I really like it.
And then cut back to the dance scene as it ends. They should have done that. It was weird that they didn't.
Yeah, to give you an idea of what happens in the movie.
There was some, go on.
What happens is with Kevin, Rowan, the villain, after he becomes a ghost, takes control of Kevin. He takes control of Melissa McCarthy, and that's stuff you see from the trailers of like the power of Paddy compels you and all that stuff. And then he takes control of Kevin. Then he goes and activates his machine. Ghost start coming through to New York, and then the army and the agents that have told the Ghostbusters to stop doing what they're doing earlier, they come along and they do they're like, oh, we're gonna take you down.
They fire at these incorporeal beings.
They fire bullets at ghosts because that's going to work. And then Rowan, through Kevin, takes control of them, and they all go into this dancey pose, like this Saturday Night Fever sort of pointing up pose, and they're being controlled clearly, but they don't have an expression, like statues.
Yeah, and it's clear that they're about to kick into a thing,
and they just stay like that the whole time until later on they get knocked over when bowling pins when the Ghostbusters get knocked into them. But in the credits, which are fully animated the whole way through. It's not like you have like with the Marvel movie, you have the animated main credits and then you have the white on black scroll like you do with every other film. You have fully animated credits all the way to the end,
which is either new graphics, things like Kevin's entire photo session, like prints.
Oh man!
Like just randomly, like mayhem at one point, the dragon like flies around the credits and zips through.
Yeah.
Like Slimer zips through it very briefly. You get bits of their book and stuff, but you also get clips from the movie sort of flashing in and out.
And then you get the Sigourney Weaver tag right at the start of the credits.
Yeah, but during the bulk of it all, you have
the dance sequence, which they obviously shot all of for the movie, but then cut out.
Yeah, well, from what I know, and again, Midnight's Edge, to elaborate, apparently Paul Feig was Paul, the best dressed man with not the best approach to criticism, he wasn't happy with how it turned out. Either it was a bit too much for him because he'd never really done a sequence like that before, or maybe it just didn't really work. But for whatever reason on set on the day, he was like, I don't think we're going to use this. However, they'll have spent a good $1 million at least on like equipment
big dance sequences
and
are not
choreography
cheap
and stuff.
to shoot.
Exactly. So they would have like all the extra days for the actors to learn the choreography and stuff and all this. So they were gonna put it somewhere, and I think they should have. If they weren't gonna put it in the film, they should have put it on the DVD and just had it as a bonus. Like
to put it in the credits, I thought was pretty cool.
It was kind of cool, but it made you go, "Why wasn't this in the film?"
Yeah,
this could have been in the film.
But also, in context, it might have just killed the chasing and all that.
Show like a bit of it in the film, like the start of it, then go to what they're doing, and then come back to the end of it. And then the credits, when you see it, you sort of go, oh, here's what they were doing while we were away from them.
Considering how eager they were to make the front of the film as baggy as it was, with extraneous jokes that don't work and too much improv. Not loads of that stuff I might add, because I still quite enjoyed it up to that point. But there is that stuff at the start of the film, and it is a problem.
A few gags where you just go, you could have cut earlier.
Yeah, like that's not funny now because you made too much of it. Just skip over it and keep going. Like the glasses. Which is my favourite gag.
It's so good.
It's so good. He scratches his eye through his glasses.
That's alright. When you watch it again, like at home, if you get it on DVD,
just fast forward it.
Well, like he does that, and then that's when you quickly nip into the kitchen to get a drink.
I'm gonna make.
And by the time you've sat down, it's caught up to where it should be.
I'm gonna make an edit. Just you wait. I'm gonna make an edit. The big damn edit is gonna cut all the extraneous shit out. It's a lie. We're not gonna do that. We don't have the rights. We're not going to do it.
But do I have the rights?
No,
okay.
we do not. We absolutely do not. For them to then we sort of wanted to do that at the start of the film and then not even put a little bit of that dance sequence in was a bit of a misstep, I think. But it was still pretty cool, and I can't wait.
It gave you something to watch while the credits rolled.
I hope the whole thing without the credits graphics is in the final is in the DVD. Yeah. I want to see that full dance sequence because it looks quite fun. But it's a real fun movie.
We're kind of glowing. We're so surprised that it's such a pleasant surprise. Like, this is the feeling I wish I'd have got when I went to see Batman v Superman, for example. Like when we went to watch Batman v Superman, I went in with low expectations.
I went in thinking it would be bad.
Yeah,
but it was actually worse than I thought it was going to be.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, I went in with low expectations, and even as I sat down, I thought, well, at least the worst it can do is meet my low expectations.
Yeah.
And instead, it went lower.
But opinions, man, because I went to see Batman v Superman with a friend who was really excited for it, and he went in and he really enjoyed it. But then when we were talking about it afterwards, I mentioned all the things that I hated about it, and he was like, well, yeah, that was a problem. So he clearly had the same problems with it that I did, but he still liked the film. It's
how you take in escapism. I think for the most part, films have no excuse. They should always aim to be the best they can be.
Yeah.
But at the same time, sometimes films don't have to be the best movies in the world to make people just turn their brain off for 2 hours and let them do their job.
I mean, Independence Day Resurgence is a terrible film.
Yeah.
It's really bad, but I really enjoyed it.
You had fun.
But I'm glad that I was able to go into the new Ghostbusters and not enjoy it in spite of anything. I enjoyed it because it was a good movie. Like, I enjoyed Independence Day Resurgence in spite of it being terrible just because it was fun. Yeah. It was bad, but it was a fun kind of bad.
Daredevil's not a great movie. I have a lot of fun watching Daredevil. There is enough in there for me to have fun with it.
I wouldn't go that far with Daredevil, but okay.
Colin Farrell, Michael Clark Duncan.
Yeah,
they're both in a different movie from everyone else, and they are reveling in it.
But
but exactly, like I know it's bad, but I get enjoyment out of it. And I think we both went into this one going, "This is going to be bad,"
and it wasn't bad.
And it wasn't bad at all.
It was not bad.
So
it was pretty good.
If you haven't seen it, congratulations, a bunch of it's just been spoiled for you.
Yeah.
And you should have gone when we told you to.
And also, you should have gone like 2 hours ago because this is a really long podcast. What are you still doing listening to us?
Yeah.
I mean, thank you, but what?
This is a very long commute to work. So yeah, I mean, wow. I mean, we started this at 6 a.m. It's 7 p.m. the next day now.
Yeah. I mean, we've not stopped drinking the whole time.
Oh man, we hooked it up to IVs while we were talking about the Real Ghostbusters.
I really need to wee.
Plug it into my veins. So go see the movie if you haven't. Give it a chance. You might watch it and go, no, that was crap. In which case, fair enough.
Yeah, fine. If you don't like it, you don't like it. But we really enjoyed it.
Yeah, we didn't like Batman. We didn't like Batman v Superman. But if you did, good. Like, power to you.
I'd like people to go and see it because I'd like to get another one.
Yeah, and in this case, power to us. We're in the minority currently. It'll be interesting to see where this goes as the weeks progress.
The world will be against us. It always has been.
Yeah, but hey, it ain't afraid of no backlash. It is. Paul
afraid of backlash. Sony are very afraid of backlash at this point. They've already lost Spider-Man.
Sony have made some terrible decisions in the run up to this movie, during the making of this movie, and probably will continue to make terrible decisions around this movie. But the movie itself remained decent. So well done, Ghostbusters 2016. Keep carrying that torch. It's been passed on. Your version is now the version that is, the one that we're going to see more of.
Yeah.
And
give us more Ghostbusters. Why not?
We're looking forward to it. Guys, if you want to get in touch during the week, bigdowncontact@gmail.com is the email address.
You know the drill.
Comment here on YouTube or SoundCloud, wherever you're listening, or if you've downloaded the episode, hey, thanks, well done.
Yay!
I mean, you can't comment on your own phone.
I mean, you can always tweet us.
Yeah, do that. Yeah.
At official CDJ or CDJ. At official CDJ. God damn it, why is your handle so difficult?
Okay, you ready for this? Or at
the
Matty Watt.
Yeah.
Watt spelled W-A-T-T.
Yes.
Okay, that was actually easier than mine.
Yes.
Good point.
It'll come up when you search it.
You can't miss it. There's a pirate man in the avatar.
Come at us. Bros. Broettes.
Broseph.
Bros and sissies.
Brosephine.
We will be talking into your ear holes again next week.
Yeah, next
week won't be Ghostbusters focused again. So.
No, it'll be more news and everything. And remember, if you want questions, get your questions in. There's some that you guys sent in last week, which we'll answer next week.
Yeah.
So we'll do that. If you are listening to this before Saturday, the 16th? I don't know how maths works. Saturday the 16th, Big Damn Stream this week is. It seems like it's going to be in the same place.
We have a plan. We will announce it
on Twitter.
It will be on Twitter and Facebook closer to the actual stream, but there will be a stream on Saturday. What form it will take yet, we're not 100% sure, but we're pretty sure it'll be on the normal channel.
Form of the Destructor.
We're working on things, so it depends if we can get the right equipment together.
If you can see a giant marshmallow man pooing through your window, that's the form it took.
Yeah.
We'll see you later. Bye, Jove.
Bye, guys.
Quick, think of an appropriate quote to end on. That'll do.